Welcome to our workshop for July 21st, and we're going to call this meeting to order. And welcome the Deputy Superintendent, who will be filling in for Mr. Chambers today. And so we'll go down the line, and we'll start with item 2, which will be the approval of the agenda. 2.1 will be changes to agenda and approval of agenda. Section 3 is recognitions. 3.1 will be recognizing Mr. Paul Whidden on the occasion of his retirement. And I expect there's going to be a lot of people here that night to recognize and honor a great man, Mr. Whidden there. So 3.2 will be recognizing Step 1 Automotive, Okaloosa County School District 2021 through 2022 Business of the Year. And then we'll move down to Section 4, visitors. There's no visitors on the agenda at this time. Section 5 will be administrative personnel appointments. 5.1 will be the appointment of principal at Riverside Elementary School. And 5.2 will be the appointment of director of budgeting. And then we'll move to Section 6, public comment. 6.1 will be the members of the public desiring to address the school board. And this is Form MIS 5241, public input and or discussion of agenda items. And I have received no blue cards for the workshop this morning. And this is the 4-minute version of public comment. 7 is committee and staff reports. 7.1 is in-county travel paid for the period of June 23rd through July 6, 2022. And then 7.2, out-of-county travel paid for the period of June 23rd through July 6, 2022. Then we'll move down to the consent agenda. 8.1 will be the approval of the consent agenda. 8.2, approval of the minutes of the workshop meeting of July 7th, 2022. Minutes of the budget workshop meeting of July 7th, 2022. Minutes of regular meeting of July 11th, 2022. And then we'll move down to 8.3, appropriation of District 2 School Board member capital outlay funds to Bruner Middle School for painting of safety columns and interior doors in the amount of $3,884.10. And this is presented by the Honorable Miss Marty Gardner. And then 8.4 is appropriation of District 2 School Board member capital outlay funds to Bruner Middle School for a riding lawnmower in the amount of $4,799. And again, this is at the request of the Honorable Miss Marty Gardner. So 8.5, request to advertise a public hearing for revision of School Board Policy 04-48, controlled open enrollment. 8.6, invoices to be approved for payment. 8.7, school donations. 8.8, payroll warrant registers and accounts payable warrant register for June 2022, totaling $63,584,771.22. And 8.9 is RFQ 22-50, strip and re-insulate duct at Niceville High School.
I have a question about that,
Okay.
or just in general. So am I to understand that it says duct, but is that all the duct work in the school that we're redoing?
No, ma'am. I think a few years ago, the board approved a project at that school that re-insulated the chilled water piping that runs in the ceiling
Okay.
of the school above the ceiling, the
Okay.
tiles. So this is a final portion of that project, I believe, that is on an off hallway to finish it.
Because, and I'm assuming this would be a good time to bring this up, you know, with all the construction and redoing we're doing, are we looking into, you know, some of these, especially these older schools that have had ductwork there for decades, are we looking at inspecting those and making sure those are being cleaned and everything?
Yes, ma'am. We have our maintenance folks look at those and make sure the filters are changed and the ducts and the ceilings are cleaned, and we have a program to do that. So if that's what you're referring to.
Yes, okay, so all those will be, are all the schools looked at on a regular basis for the ductwork?
I'd have to get Dr. Smith up here or Mr. Bolton to speak to the program, but certainly if there's
Okay.
anything that pops up, the school would put in a work order for it and we'd get it handled.
Okay, thank you.
So did you want Dr. Smith to come up? Is that what you?
Unless, if you need him.
I'm
Dr.
good.
Smith, did you want to just come up and maybe, I know you'll have the answer for
Well, he
that.
comes-
And
Sounds
on,
like
and
a
on,
safe-
and on your way here,
pretty much.
Dr. Smith, I know that I've inquired about the same thing with Dr. Smith, and you explained to me what amounts to a procedure that you guys have about how high something is and whose responsibility it is.
The way we differentiate between custodial and maintenance is if we can reach it on a 6-foot ladder. In other words, a ceiling of this height would be a custodial issue. Anything above that would be a maintenance issue. We have a lot of very high ductwork, like in gymnasiums and auditoriums, that you have to have a special lift to get to. So it has to be a maintenance issue that's scheduled in advance and done. A lot of times when you go up that high to clean those, actually you can clean them, but it's still, the dust and stuff on the thing will discolor the paint, so it will still look dirty after you clean it. So there's, sometimes you have to do some painting and stuff, but that's the way it's addressed.
So sometimes I hear from employees that they're concerned about mold and stuff in ductwork and all that in the environment of the school. And I just want to make sure that we are on that and that we're providing that safe and healthy environment for everyone, not only our employees, but our students. So I'm assuming there's some kind of process to keep up with that.
That's correct. And a lot of that's done during the summertime. I know this does not make you feel any better, but most of what you see around the grill, mold does not like moving air. So most of what you see around the grill is just dust and dirt, and it's just a matter of removing it. Mold does not, it mostly wants to grow in stagnant areas. So most of where areas moving like through a piece of ductwork and around the grill is actually just mold or dirt that we need to systematically remove, and that's what we do.
So what about air quality testing, that kind of thing? Do we do that?
We have an indoor air quality program where any employee, any user of our facility can fill out that form. It comes to us, we come do an evaluation. Through that evaluation, we decide which way we're gonna go. Is it a custodial issue? Is it an indoor air quality issue? We may do some indoor air quality monitoring. Depends on what we find when we get there. But the first step is that indoor air quality form. It's an MIS form, and everybody can get it, and anybody can fill it out, and we respond to that form.
At one time, that form was actually on the website.
It still is.
Okay, thank you.
It still is. It's available on the facility's website.
Okay, great.
I think the other thing to point out, Ms. Ivanchek, thank you for that question, is that on the indoor air quality, we have contracted outside services to come in where we need to and perform certified indoor air quality assessments and give us feedback on those.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank
Is there a
you.
routine, hold on one second, is there a routine schedule? I'm sorry, is there a routine schedule as far as changing out air filters? Kind of like our house, you know, when it starts getting dusty and dirty, we know that the filters need to be changed. Is there a routine?
There is a routine there. Keep in mind, some filters will need to be changed a lot more often than other filters. In hallways where, in areas where there's a lot of traffic, it creates a lot more dust, so the filter catches a lot more dust, so it's gotta be, but your plant operator in each facility, that's what their job is
That's
to
what
do.
they're doing. Okay, they're kind of dating, they know when those
Yes,
need to be
they'll date the
changed
filter
and-
when they put it in there, and they have after they do it a while, they'll learn how often those need to be, depending
That
on the
would help
location
quite
of the
a bit.
filter.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. All right, so now we'll move to 8.10, renewal of ITB 18-14, physical and occupational therapy. 8.11, renewal of ITB 3872AH, cafeteria smallwares and small equipment. 8.12, tag on bid over $25,000, Safe Fleet.
And can I, Jay, Mr. McGinnis, thank you for calling yesterday and talking to us about this. I didn't know if you might want to share this a little bit. I think safety for our buses, but also to assist our principals.
Right.
It's a wonderful program that you have going on right here.
It's a program called Commander through Safe Fleet Sayon, which we have our cameras on our buses through them now. This will enhance and upgrade our camera systems. It'll automatically download the videos now for us when the bus comes back to the bus shop.
So
but
principals will be able to quickly
Yes,
be able to
we'll
see
be able
and
to
view.
expedite that process of getting the video downloaded and then back out to the school.
Well, how did you
as they
do it? How
request
did you
them.
do it before?
We would physically go out, get the hard drive off the bus, bring it into the office, put it into a little download machine.
Right.
45 minutes, an hour later, we
And you
have
would
it
do that
downloaded.
with every bus and every request?
Yes, and a requester or obviously getting more and more each
Yeah.
year, you know, understandably. So anywhere from 20 to 25 videos a day we're downloading at that rate. So you can see that's a lot of man hours and labor that we're
Oh,
putting
yeah.
into that. So I think our
Rain
return on
or shine,
investment
right.
we'll get it back pretty quickly.
And did
in
you
my
say
opinion.
that half-cent sales tax, is this being funded through half-cent, or did I misunderstand
I
that?
think, Mr. Horton, it's capital money.
Yeah,
It's
it
out of
wouldn't be-
general?
not- Yeah, not half
Okay,
cent sales tax.
okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Great program. But we're starting in one area first, right?
We are, and I talked to Ms. Gardner about that. We may look at putting some in the south end. I talked to Dustin Keith yesterday. He said we would have to get the equipment for the south end bus shop that he's getting now for the north end bus shop.
Right.
And he's gonna see what his timeline is on getting that stuff as well. He's already ordered the north end stuff, but if possible, yes, we may take some of those and put them at certain areas in the south end and then catch back up the following year when we do the rest of them. So
Right.
that's something we're exploring.
My concern was that I know that there are some areas and some certain buses that maybe have more concerns than
Right.
others. So some of those buses that we know that, because of what you,
Sure.
the records that we have in the past, maybe would benefit a little bit
Right.
more if we could.
And-
I think you said 78, maybe move some of those license to
Right.
a couple.
The company
other-
says it can be done as long as their system can read our
Okay,
stuff. Dustin says he will look at it and get with me, so
I know
we're
our
exploring that. So
principals
we
would
may do
greatly
that.
appreciate that, so,
Yes.
on those buses.
While you're up here, Mr. McGinnis, I'd like to ask you, heard from other districts about changes in routes and canceling and all that. If you wouldn't mind speaking to that as far as our district. We all know we have a shortage of drivers, but do you anticipate any major changes in routes or canceling of bus routes or anything like that as we head into the new school year?
I don't think we have any major changes. We have adjusted several of our routes in each area just due to the lack of resources and drivers. Where we found our numbers towards the end of the year, where we're able to take a bus and maybe put, say, your bus route onto Mr. Bryant's bus route because the numbers fit.
Right.
We may do that.
Mhm.
And if the time still works, it's something we've explored and ran this summer. We had drivers evaluating all of our routes and doing these changes for us to make sure they would work. So we've done some of that. I don't think we've canceled massive amounts of buses in any area that would alarm anybody.
That would change the student status to maybe having to get their own transportation or to walk or something like
No, we
that?
have not done that.
Okay, great. That's good. Appreciate you working with that. I know that's challenging.
I would say 85 to 90% of what we had last year, we're gonna have again when school starts.
Okay,
Or we
great.
plan to, I should say.
Sure.
And then we'll adjust again after school starts and we see where kids are and kids aren't. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like you start a football game, you gotta adjust at halftime. We adjust after the first month to see where we've got more kids than we thought or less kids than we thought. So it's kind of a puzzle we'll put together.
Sure.
It's
Thank-
nice to know we don't have more students walking, especially with the heat right now.
No.
And August is always,
And obviously, thanks to y'all and the superintendent and Mr. Horton, we've got more of them riding on air-conditioned buses this year.
thank
So
goodness.
Yay.
we
Perfect,
got,
perfect time for that to
20
happen.
more in at about the middle of May, end of May.
Oh, okay.
So those will be on
Mhm.
board when we start in August, so that's helping too. So
So how many in our fleet now are air-conditioned?
we have bought 60 in the last 2 years.
Right.
We just getting ready to order 15 more when the budget's approved for next year. We're probably at, I would say, close to 60% that's air conditioned now, so we're getting up there.
That's great.
We were at about 30% before we started
Right.
on this, so we're making a big dent in it.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
Well, it was interesting to me, and I'm not sure how you do it now, but could you talk a little bit about when those buses are ready and how we get them here?
how we get them here?
Yeah,
As far as
transported.
transporting?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, when we order them, then they are sent to the factory from International, and they're built from the ground up. They don't just have a lot sitting out there like a car lot, because our buses are built to Florida specifications. Each state has different
Right.
specs, although they're all buses.
Right.
Like Florida has to have seatbelts on their buses. Some states still don't have to have that. So they're gone. It goes to the factory in Oklahoma. once they're built, it's about a 6-month process. Then they drive them to Jacksonville. Our air conditioning company is in Jacksonville that we buy our air conditioners from. They do all the AC work on them, and then they drive them up here to us and deliver them to us. So it's a process that is lengthy, and it's getting longer based on all the things that we're having to wait on, we've been told now. So
course.
these buses we are fixing to order may take us another 100 days than the last ones we got to even get them in here.
Yes,
So,
sir. Well, that was just interesting to me. I didn't know if anyone else found that
Well, it
interesting.
takes about a school year. It's not like we can get those
Right.
buses once
Now
we
it is. Yeah.
hopefully approve the
The
budget
state
Monday night.
contract
They're not
before
gonna be.
has always said 150 days for delivery, or they owe us money back for every day it's not.
Wow.
Well, the contract now, the international's telling me it's 254 days out once you order a bus, so you can see it's gone up
Almost a year.
over 100 days
Wow.
from what the normal contract says, just because of the manufacturers and everything else, so.
Just thankful we have the money that we can order these buses.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll be
Just-
patient.
And thank y'all for supporting that.
One last question out of curiosity. Is there any miles per gallon improvements in the new buses versus the old ones?
We think there's a couple, yes, a couple miles
Good.
per gallon.
Okay, good.
On the newer buses. Some of our older buses, they struggle,
Yeah.
you know. They're down in the 6-7 miles an hour gallon range, but
Ooh.
our newer ones are more up around 9 or 10, so.
Good, good.
We're
Good.
thankful for that, and we
Yeah.
have done a little bit of a
Especially now.
piling on a couple of them. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right.
Are you hearing any problems with fuel, getting fuel?
I have not, and that's a Vince question.
Oh, that's a Vince
can answer
question.
Probably better than I can, but,
Good.
only problem is keep going up. Now it's
Yes,
coming down a little
price.
bit, but, anyway, anything
It's
else?
there. Can you
No,
just
thank you
afford
so
it?
much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks
All
for
right.
everything
Thank you.
do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGinnis. All right, so now we'll move to 8.13, tag on bid, ITB 3933AH, food service, large equipment. 8.14, tag on bid purchase over $25,000, Polar King International Incorporated. 8.15, tag on bid, annual agreement for professional environmental consulting services. 8.16, tag on bid over $25,000, Learning Labs Incorporated. 8.17, exempted purchase over $25,000, Sunbelt Staffing LLC. 8.18, exempted purchase over $25,000, Career Staff Unlimited and Innovative Employee Solutions Incorporated, Princeton Staffing. 8.19, sole source purchase over $25,000, SS number 23-01, Curriculum Associates LLC. And school board members, my apologies, but we did have one change to the consent agenda, and this is it. 8.20, correction to item 8.20 is the correct service agreement number is 2341. So before, the number was wrong, so this is the correct number. So service agreement number 2341, Brent Purcell. 8.21, service agreement number 23-37, Stephen Bear Jr. 8.22, service agreement number 23-38, and I tried to pronounce this the other day, so hopefully I get it right, Mateo Nincevic, and I apologize if I mispronounced that, but I did my best. 8.23, service agreement number 23-39, Elizabeth Morgan. 8.24, service agreement number 23-40, Jason J. Peterson. 8.25, service agreement number 23-42, Robin Coley. 8.26, service agreement number 23-43, Danielle Ragnoli. And 8.27, service agreement number 23-44, Caitlin Sneed. 8.28, spot survey 6.5, parcel 18, Mark Smith Boulevard. 8.29, addendum to contract for purchase and sale between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida and Okaloosa County, Florida. 8.30, lease agreement and extension agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida and BLB Property Holdings, LLC. 8.31, State Fire Marshal Public School Fire Safety Report System, Fire Code Compliance Reports for Okaloosa County School District Facilities for 2021 through 2022. And 8.32, Sale and Disposal of Surplus Property. 8.33, 2021 through 2022 State Equity Report. 8.34, group dental plan offered by United Healthcare. And,
Can we go back, I'm sorry, to 38.33?
sure,
Equity report.
Yeah, on the equity report, I saw, is Mr. Chapman here?
he is.
Yes.
Yeah,
He is.
okay. All right, hold on. I saw one thing about Title IX, that we had some schools out of compliance.
Yes, and that's been typical for the last 8 years or more than that. That's meaning that as, when the state looks at it, is the amount of, the number of gender-based, like females, if it's, if the gender population overall is, say, 51%, we want at least 51% or more of females participating in athletics. So they're out of compliance based on numbers, but they also, there's a caveat to that, is that if we do a portfolio showing efforts we put in place as far as advertisement and other maybe new sports and different things we're entertaining, those kind of things kept balance it out. So yes, we're out of compliance, but for each one of the schools that are out of compliance, we did do a portfolio.
And so what does the state rule on that? Do they just tell us to make efforts to have more females into the sports, or what action do we have to take?
So each year, the state will give us a report around October, basically looking over the equity report we submitted in July. And we just continue to look at those efforts and kind of track those efforts as far as, are we making progress? Are we putting forth those efforts? And they just kind of keep on task if we are indeed making those efforts.
So we offer the program, we encourage the program, but we're still written up and saying we're out of compliance because we don't have enough females to say they want to play, whether it's volleyball, basketball, even though we are doing our part. I mean,
That's
the
correct.
program's offered, encouraging, it's just that we don't have enough females
Numbers.
that want to say they want to go out and.
Absolutely.
So that's why, okay.
And we always looking
Sounds-
for, interest levels and different things of that nature as far as maybe the kids are interested in a certain sport. And they did research, see if there's something that can be accomplished. But it's a continuous moving target that we just want to continue to work towards those numbers and so forth. And again, the portfolios that's a key to us showing efforts that we're trying to
A lot of
close
effort's
those
been-
numbers.
And this is all based on our official Florida high school sanctioned sports, right?
That's correct.
So nothing, I don't even know if we have schools with any kind of intramural or anything. So what is our percentage?
Well, it's based on per school.
I got you. Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
And that's the one thing that I'd like to comment on, Mr. Chapman, and appreciate so much all the work that you do to put together this Florida Educational Equity Act, the law that compels that this be completed. And then, of course, you submit this to the state of Florida. But what I also remember is that you're not the only one doing a lot of work on this particular report, that every school that offers sports or athletics, someone at that school, or several people perhaps, are gathering these numbers at every school, and then they're supplying those to you, and then you produce the master report, I guess, that goes into the state of Florida, so that we can comply with the Florida Educational Equity Act. And just appreciate everything that you do on that.
Well, thank you, sir, and I will say it is definitely a team effort. There's principals involved, there's athletic directors.
Coaches.
Coaches, even the academic side of the house with the classes,
Yeah.
principals. So it's involved a whole range of individuals that come
Massive.
together for this report to come
Yes,
together.
it's a big job.
And equity is everybody's responsibility, so
That's
it's an
right.
ongoing project.
That's right.
Well, and I also think it's interesting is that, and Mr. Horton, you might be able to help me with this because my numbers aren't going to be exactly right, but I think there's like 18 or 19 sanctioned sports by FHSAA. It might be a little bit less than for the girls, but I think we offer just about all of them with the exception of maybe one or two. So we do have a wide variety of options for those students. I mean, short of forcing them to join something,
Exactly.
So there is plenty of opportunities in different areas for females to participate in sports. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
What I've
And-
always appreciated about this district is that when a group of parents or a group of students go to their principal and they request a sport or an athletic event like lacrosse, I remember when that was brought here, like archery, I remember when that was brought
Yeah.
here.
Girls'
We
flag
respond.
football.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Soccer.
So I remember when many of those things were brought here, and our principals and our schools and our district are always responsive in the positive so that our students can have access to participate in those events.
Absolutely, and that's still an ongoing process as well.
Exactly.
And so I'm excited. I work closely with Mr. Brian Humphrey and, that side of the house as well for ideas and strategies. And I will say with all of the schools out of compliance as well, is that they have to complete a plan of action, how they can, particularly those individual schools, can improve their numbers as well.
Right. That's a great report. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you will check with me afterwards, I think I see a date. Let's double check a date that I'm
Okay.
seeing on here that we may want to look at.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. All right, so we'll go to 8.34, and this is the group dental plan offered by United Healthcare. And Mr. Frakes is already making his way up because this has been
This is exciting.
Yes, it is. Good stuff.
I know on my end of the county, it's definitely been
It's tough.
a
You're
topic.
right.
All over the
It's
county.
Absolutely. Good morning to the board
Across-
members,
across
Mr.
the
Chairman.
county.
Deputy Superintendent Horton and Mr. McInnes. Yes, bringing to you today the issue of our dental coverage, our group dental coverage that we've had in place for many years. Has been with Delta Dental Insurance. And there have been some issues that have been well documented, and I'm sure all of you, as you have made your way around the county to different events, have probably had someone approach you, especially, as you pointed out, Mr. Bryant, in the north end of the county. What it is, it's a problem of access. We have many dentists that have decided to leave the network for many different reasons, but they've left the Delta Dental network, and that's made it difficult for our employees and our retirees. One of the things that, as we've gone through this process, that I was surprised to find is that just the scope of the number of people that we have in our dental program. It's much more broad than our medical coverage. We've got 1,500 plus retirees that participate in the dental plan. 300 or so of those have at least a spouse in that program as well. And then we've got all together with our active employees, their dependents, and retirees and their dependents, between 7,000 and 8,000 folks that are on our dental coverage. So a lot of people that are out there in the community looking for dental coverage, and it's challenging. So the Benefits Oversight Group, of course, is the standing committee that considers all decisions related to the employee benefits of the district. And that's made up, of course, of representatives from the union, representatives from the school district, and the recommendation has, after consideration of multiple options, we saw several that were brought to the BOG's attention through efforts that were made by our broker, Accentria. Mr. Caraway is here with me, in fact, today, and he'll speak about some of the details as we get into it. But the decision was made to make that change from Delta Dental to United Healthcare. And one of the very unique things about that decision was that as we spoke with Mr. Caraway and worked with his team and the team at United Healthcare and asked the question, can we do this sooner than January 1st, as would typically be the case in our renewal cycle. Of course, we will bring the group of benefits as we typically do in the August-September timeframe, but because of the issues and the challenges that it creates for our retirees and for our employees, we're bringing this decision to you sooner with the intention to make that change effective September 1st. So upon approval by the board, September 1st, we will make that move to United Healthcare's dental program. There's a couple of important reasons why. And there's a couple of important features of the plan that Mr. Caraway will come up and join me now as well, and we'll talk about just how this move is going to help solve some of those problems. So, Mike?
Yes,
step on
all
up
right,
here.
thank you, Russ.
Appreciate it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can I hand these out as well?
Yeah,
I
just-
think these
just-
are-
yeah.
I think these are important as a reference point. Yeah, just to echo Russ's comments about access to care in the Panhandle in general when it comes to dentistry. It's always been a difficult task as a broker to bring out a dental plan that employees can have access to the dentist that they would like to choose, and to avoid what we call balance billing in our world. And that has been very difficult, because typically once a dentist bills their patient portal, if you will, or patient load. If they are in network, then they typically will now come out of the network because they have the patients that they want, and they typically don't want to discount their pricing at that stage within their practice. And you're typically going to find the majority of the dentists that are in one network, they're going to be in the other networks as well. So what we do to combat that is we do what's called a passive PPO. So that means if you go in network or out of network for that particular carrier, your benefits are going to be the same. The only difference is that if you go out of the network, you can be balance billed. So I want to explain that for those of you that may not be familiar with it. If you're in network, that dentist has agreed to accept what that carrier's reimbursement is, what their negotiated pricing is. So if you go in for a cleaning or a comprehensive exam and that reimbursement from the carrier is $100, then that dentist is going to accept the $100. He can charge you no more. If you go out of the network and that dentist feels like his service is worth $150, they're going to reimburse you $100, and then you're going to be balance billed. The patient would be balance billed $50. Right? Makes sense? So the plan that you're on today is when you go out of the network, it's what's called maximum allowable reimbursement, which is really the lowest reimbursement scale you can have. So what that means is if you go out of the network, which is happening frequently, especially in the north end of the county, because a lot of dentists have not only dropped out of Delta Dental's plan, but other carrier plans. And we have several clients up there, and it's whether it's MetLife, whether it's Delta Dental, whether it's United Healthcare, everyone's right now feeling the pain of that. But the plan that you're on now, they're going to reimburse at what that allowed amount is, the discounted price for an in-network provider, which again is the lowest. It's called maximum allowable. So your employees are really feeling the pain of that. So what we've done is we've secured a reimbursement schedule that's going to be based on 95% of usual and customary. So that means 9.5 dentists out of 10 in our geographic area are going to accept what United Healthcare deems usual and customary. Balance billing is not going to go away if they go out of the network, but it's certainly going to be minimized. Okay, so we secured that contract for you. I think that's really the most important piece. And in the sheet that I've just provided to you, I want to go through a few more of the highlights of that. Number one is we've matched your current benefits or improved them. Okay, so there's no takeaways. We've included now, we're going to add to the plan orthodontic care for dependents under the age of 19, which currently you do not have.
That's big.
That's big.
That's huge.
Yes, ma'am.
With our young families and with young children and.
Absolutely it
That's
is.
huge.
So they'll get a $1,500 benefit that they do not have now for each covered eligible dependent. Okay, and that's a lifetime benefit. Added rollover benefit, this is another benefit that you didn't have. So we want to encourage folks to go in and do their dental care, their cleanings. So if they have less than $1,000 in care, dental care, on an annual basis, United Healthcare is going to let them roll over $500 or add to their annual max, which on your plan you have $2,000 annual max. So in that instance, in 2023, if they have less than $1,000 in charges, in 2024 they can roll over $500. So now in 2024 they're going to have a $2,500 benefit instead of $2,000. Great benefit. They can roll that over 3 times, so they can take their annual benefit from $2,000 to $3,500. Okay, so that's awesome, especially when you start talking about major comprehensive stuff, implants, dentures, things of that nature. Very, very expensive coverage. We've lowered your deductible on this plan. Currently, you're at $125 and $375 for the family. We're going to $50 and $150. $50 and $150, and that applies both in and out of network. But the added benefit that we're doing with the deductible is currently, if you go out of the network, which a lot of folks are, for preventative care, your deductible applies under your current plan. Under our plan, it's going to be waived. So it's waived in and out of network. That's why we refer to it as a passive PPO. Another big benefit that you currently do not have is no waiting periods for late entrants. So let's say an employee's enrolled because you all pay 100% of the premium, right? So pretty much all the employees are enrolled. But if a dependent's not on the plan and now they want to come onto the plan and they were eligible at one point, they would be considered a late entrant. Under your current plan, they would have to wait for major services for 12 months. We're going to give them immediate coverage when they come on the plan on their effective date. We talked about the usual and customary. That's a big benefit. Now, some of the value-added things, the Smile Direct Club. This is a at-home teeth straightening service that folks have access to. It's a discounted program. 24-hour virtual dental care, right? Everybody goes, well, how can you do dental care virtually? You know, telemedicine concept, if you will. But if somebody was on the weekend and they have a toothache they just can't deal with, they can call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They can get a diagnosis and maybe get a prescription called in to treat that until they get to the dentist on Monday. That does not go against their annual max either. Great benefit.
Well, it usually happens when.
It does. Yeah, Saturday night, right? Exactly. This is a really cool benefit, Jet Dental. This will be great for your employees that are remote locations north end of the county. They don't have access to care. So what happens when you don't have access to care or it's inconvenient? You typically put it off. Jet Dental is a mobile service that will go to a site and they can do comprehensive cleanings. They can do x-rays. It's pretty much preventative care. And they can even do cavities, fillings, if you will. And we can make that available as long as we can get 40 appointments. They'll have Jet Dental set up there. So some companies that do that, Marriott, Overstock.com, PetSmart, these are some national companies that use this service. It would be paid as in-network too, so no balance billing, and it would apply to their plan just like they were going to a dentist office.
Awesome.
Is this the one that we were talking about, that they can also like bring in their spouse, child, or is it just for the employee?
Absolutely. Anybody that's covered under the plan would be eligible. Great point. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Ms.
you can get
Garber.
those 40 very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Without
if
a
a principal would go ahead and maybe plan that on a teacher workday maybe, or just
Sure.
to help our teachers so they can not have to take some time off to get out to
Absolutely,
make
that's
these
a great
dental
idea. I think it would
appointments. That
have,
would be-
from the,
would really
you know,
benefit
from the
our
principal down to
employees.
promote that.
Mhm.
I think we could secure that 40 requirement pretty easy.
Very quickly.
Yes.
Just, so there's no problem with doing that on work time?
I would have to defer to Dr. Hale on that.
That might-
Or,
Yeah.
I'm looking at our union folks
Yeah.
over there.
Well,
Well, during their lunch
Certainly you
break
could do
or
so. I
during
mean,
their-
right now what's happening is you're taking a half
Certainly.
day off
Yeah.
and bringing a substitute teacher in.
But Ms.
If you do it
Evangeline-
in a break time or not,
The other point would be if my spouse and my 3 children are coming up to get their teeth cleaned and they're on the plan, they could take up 4 of those appointments. And so it may not just be the employee, but it could also be the family.
Right, I'm just
and
saying.
a typical time frame for that service is a 40-minute visit. So you're right, it gets them back into the classroom quicker versus taking a half a day or a full day for a dental appointment, which, you know, may or may not be necessary.
So for 40 appointments, could 2 schools that perhaps are located near each other, could they combine?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Right.
Yep, as long as they're a member, they can sign up for that particular date that we have scheduled for it. Yes,
School
ma'am.
board members.
Yeah, anyone
They
that's
can't get
covered
into
under
their
the plan.
dentist?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
So some financial incentives that United Healthcare is bringing to the table. And keep in mind, United Healthcare, and I know you guys know this, is our current medical carrier. We're fully insured. We are considering going to a self-funded platform. If we go that route, they have agreed to take $2 off of our administrative services fee. Okay, so however many members we have on our medical plan, they're going to lower that $2 and multiply it out. That's a significant savings on that. And that'll be for a 3-year guarantee. They'll give us that benefit.
Wow.
In addition to that, they're going to provide us a 5% tech credit that'll be paid to the school district that we can use to pay for administration of all plans of our dental premium. That's over $100,000 in tech credit for a 3-year guarantee. Okay, that'll come to the school district, paid directly to you all.
I'm sorry, can you give me a little more info on that, what tech credit?
Yeah, so tech credit would, you would use that money to pay for our benefit administration system where folks are going in to enroll, that we're paying to Web Benefits Design
Right.
currently.
Uh-huh.
We could use it for that. We could use it for our ACA compliance dollars that we're gonna have, we'll be responsible
Okay.
for if we go self-funded. So that's where those dollars would go.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
The rates are guaranteed for 3 years, so we're actually 40 months because we're going 9/1. So we're going to be good all the way till 1/1/26.
Wow.
And then lastly, just as a point of reference, I want you to, some larger companies in our area and throughout the state that you'll recognize. Publix is a current client of United Healthcare, as well as I placed this several years ago, Santa Rosa School District also has United Healthcare Dental on this very platform. Not as rich as your plan, but on this United Healthcare platform. So any questions? Did it help? And I'll tell you, one thing that we're gonna do also, we're gonna really work hard to get dentists on the plan that maybe are not on the plan today as an in-network provider. You all being the largest employer in Okaloosa County will help us with that task. So we will work with Julie and the BOG and Russ as team to get those names and bring them on board. But at the end of the day, we're putting the employees in a better position to allow them to choose the dentist that they want to go to.
And I just have one question, and of course, I know the answer because it's on the agenda item. But folks may be watching that can't see the agenda or not looking at it. Now, when is this going to start if we approve it?
September the 1st.
Okay. So pretty
Yes, sir.
quick. Pretty quick.
September 1st, so we will, the wheels are already in motion, but pending, everything is waiting, of course, board approval.
Sure.
But once that occurs, then things will start moving very
Move.
quickly to ramp up for that.
Gotcha.
We've got a communication strategy that the risk management team and the Accentria team has already been discussing. So we'll get that word out to our retirees, to our active employees,
Okay.
through several different channels. One of the big things that we didn't cover yet was the premium. What's this going to do? I mean, we've increased these,
Right.
enhanced these coverages. What's that going to do? What impact is that going to have on the premium? Well, the single rate that the board, of course, pays for all employees have the opportunity to pick that up. That rate will be exactly the same as it is with Delta Dental.
Wow.
The
Awesome.
family rate, of course, the employee pays the difference in that. Now, retirees, of course, are paying that in full. But the family rate is going to go down actually by about $1.29. So we're going to get that enhanced coverage for the
Less.
same, or in the case of
Less.
the family coverage, slightly lower premium.
Which is why some people might want to jump in, you were mentioning.
Correct, absolutely. Great
Because they
point.
see that and all the benefits they may, so we're going to have like an open enrollment type time for that after.
Well, we have an open enrollment period each year, each fall.
Yeah.
For,
But
that will
the
impact,
next
that will
year.
take place, become effective January 1st, as it does each year. But again, an unprecedented move. So if you have dental coverage now, you'll be rolled into United Healthcare. That will all take place automatically. There's not going to be any action required by the employees. They'll receive cards. We've been having conversations with United Healthcare about that, but that coverage will simply be rolled into the new carrier automatically. Again, nothing required of the employee.
But if I want to add somebody now that I look at this plan, can you?
You can
do
add,
it?
open enrollment will come right on the heels of that, so certainly
Okay.
you'll have the opportunity to do that, then effective January 1.
Okay,
you'll
so it'd
that-
have to be
you'll have that
effective.
covered. Correct.
Yeah.
We're not gonna,
Mhm.
yes, we're not gonna open it up. It just, the logistics of that would be tough on us, especially with the other things that we have going on. So we're gonna wait, and we will have that open enrollment period to be effective January 1st. So
January, yeah.
certainly,
Which is
that's
not
up
that
for
long.
consideration for employees to consider, does that meet their needs? And certainly with the enhancements to coverage, we can. And I think this is an important component. Our employee benefits package is very rich, and it's a very important component of attracting and retaining employees.
Right.
So to the extent that we can enhance these
Absolutely.
benefits, that provides us some leverage as we go out in the marketplace, try to attract employees to Okaloosa County Schools, try to keep those employees that are here happy with a very rich benefit package that the board provides each year. And this adds to that.
So if a retiree, when they separated from the district, decided not to take the dental plan, would a retiree be able to now come back in, or once they've separated from the district, does that make sense?
I mean, it's always been the board's policy to, upon separation for a retiree, they have the decision to accept any of the coverages that they
At that
have as an
point.
active employee at that point. We do not allow retirees to come
Okay.
back in at a later date. They can delete coverage at any time. They're not,
Okay, I thought so.
they're, because they're paying the premiums themselves, They do not have, they're not compelled to wait until open enrollment, although we do offer them that opportunity each year just to give them the opportunity to review their benefits. But no, ma'am, we don't have that, that policy to allow retirees to come back and add coverage.
And what was that
at a later date.
7,000 number we talked about? Was that
Yeah,
the?
7,000, we're
retirees?
talking about, well, we have about 1,500, just under 1,500 retirees actually, and about 300 of those have spouses.
Mhm.
If we start adding up the number of individuals that are covered under our plan with active employees, their
That was the
dependents, it's between 7,000 and 8,000. I know we've looked at those
That's
numbers,
good.
that census data here lately, and it's, as we're rolling that into United Healthcare, and I was kind of surprised the number of folks.
I was too.
I knew we had a lot of retirees. I was thinking it was more in the 900 range, but it's much more. And it's difficult for retirees to find. You've got a group rate available to you. It's difficult for retirees to go out in the marketplace and find an equivalent product that's competitively priced. So this provides them an opportunity to have that coverage. And again, it's only good if you can go out there and get access to care, though. So that's the frustration that we've had. I've spoken with employees, I've spoken with retirees that have had a dentist that's left the network, switched to another dentist, then only to have that dentist then leave the network. And, they're just kind of leapfrogging from dentist to dentist. And it's frustrating for them, and they're seeing, as Mike pointed out, they're feeling the pinch of those balance bills that they're receiving, because and certainly the dentists are in a position where they have to maintain.
Their costs are going up.
Their costs are
and-
going up.
Sure.
And so, and with that reimbursement being relatively low with that current network, it's natural that you're going to see some of those dentists falling out of the network. So this will have, some of the features that Mike's talked about are going to help combat those issues. I'm excited about it.
I am too.
Wow, this is awesome. I think that you've done a great job of getting this together, and,
This and our health insurance.
Yes.
Both of it.
and
Yes, ma'am.
I definitely agree with your statement. In fact, I've actually been in the public stating that our benefits package is helping us in our
Right. Yes,
efforts
ma'am.
to retain our employees and to attract new ones, because I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
it's so important. And we're doing a good job of holding down the costs, which, of course, our citizens appreciate, because
Yes.
we're using their money.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes,
I'm
that-
thrilled, and I really appreciate
Yes,
all
ma'am.
you've done.
Absolutely. I think Mr. Caraway pointed out there, effectively a 40-month rate guarantee we've got on this plan. So
Yes.
we'll have the same rate we've talked about. We'll continue for 40 months there. So,
Yeah,
typically
that's-
would be
that's
January 1, but
unheard of.
3-year guarantee. We've got those
It
bonus
really
4
is.
months there. So we're in good shape.
That really
Yep.
is unheard
Nice
of.
job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
So I do have a couple,
Yes.
one request, if when we pass this Monday night, which I'm sure we will, could we make a list of all the network providers and all of the out-of-network, so that would minimize any confusion, that would make it easier for employees to choose
Yes, sir.
from? I know we do offer, we show those, but, sometimes it's just, the list is a mile long, but with dentists,
Right.
I think we can kind of,
We can.
make it easier.
Yeah.
And then also, I would like to just thank Mr. Chambers, Mr. Horton, who's here right now, Mr. Frakes, how fast, once this issue was brought to the attention of the school district, how fast we were able to try to solve this. And the fact that we're getting it done before January 1st.
Yes.
And because of the work that y'all did, this just says it's a lot of great effort on y'all's part to get this done for our employees, and I know constituents on the north end of the county are going to be very happy to see
Absolutely.
this,
Yeah.
as well
Yes.
as the rest of the county. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully we
thank
can
you.
get
Yes,
more
sir.
dentists too.
yes.
Yes.
Join in. That's going to
Absolutely.
be key.
Yep.
It's getting more dentists.
So as soon as this is approved, you'll be getting information out to the employees,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as we're trying to recruit new employees, this is another good reason to
That's
come to
correct.
work in Okaloosa County.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Right.
thank you.
Thank you.
folks.
Thank you
very
so much. Awesome.
All right. Yeah, that is awesome. A lot of
That's-
great add-ons there too. So, 8.35, medical office building lease between Fort Walton Beach Medical Center Incorporated and the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida.
Good stuff.
So this is going to be our new program that we're working with Fort Walton Beach Medical Center.
So exciting.
Yes, sir. Ms. Branscome's here and can give
Okay.
you an update on where we are.
Okay.
But it is an exciting opportunity. We have submitted a Triumph grant
Right.
for funding to help support this program, but it's unique
Right.
in the state of Florida in the form of a public-private partnership with the hospital to produce students that are ready to go on and take additional credentials to be nurses to help support what we know will be an expanding need for nurses in our area of the state.
And this is, and she's probably going to answer, but I'm going to go ahead. This is going to begin this school year.
Yes, sir.
And because it is a school setting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is it my understanding that we are going to be providing security at that location?
We will be. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And
one
that's
of
a
the
school
thing-
resource officer
Yes, sir.
provided by Okaloosa County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And in this particular situation, she'll tell you that we're going to start this program this fall because of some renovation work we're still doing. We're going to start it at the campus of OTC and then transition to this facility, which will be renovated and ready for their use for second semester.
Okay. All right.
So these students stay in this program all day, or how does that work?
No, it's a 2-period, well, they actually have to have 3 periods in their schedule. One is a
transportation.
travel period,
Yeah.
and then they have a 2-period block.
So
of
they usually
classes.
do that at the end of the day, right?
Well, so we have students from Choctaw, Foot Walton, and Niceville coming. So the Niceville students will go in the morning session, and the
Mhm.
Choctaw, Foot Walton students will go in the afternoon session.
Okay.
So we're breaking it out that way. It's a little bit easier for the person scheduling, as well as get all the students in with their cohorts from their schools.
So when a student finishes with this and is graduating, what are they achieving in this particular
So
program?
in this particular program, what they're going to have the opportunity to do is to earn their CNA, Certified Nursing Assistant. We are also in the process of determining, we've just hired the nurse, so we're still finalizing some of the certification pieces. We're also looking at the EKG. We do eventually want to be able to, in the future, do phlebotomy. And in the rest of the building, the hospital is going to be placing a lab. So we're hoping that we can make that partnership and have live sticks, because we were trying to do that at Crestview High School, but the problem is that it's hard to get people to want to allow students to do a live stick on them for the phlebotomy purposes.
Right, yeah.
So that's been a challenge for that, but we're hoping that we could make that work, because the hospital really needs that type of employee.
Mrs. Branscombe, real quick, for those
Yes.
that might not know what a phlebotomy is, because I have to do them twice a year for my blood disorder, but what exactly is?
So it's someone who takes your blood, and you go in and you have to get your blood taken for blood tests for, particular things that your doctor orders.
Mhm.
So if you go like to Quest Diagnostic or LabCorp or something
Right.
like that, those people have to go through a training and get a certificate to be able to do that. So we're looking at also doing that, hopefully in the future.
Let me ask
we-
a follow-up question about
Yes, sir.
that. So should we be able to do that? Will these students actually receive that certificate?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
We just have to have so many live sticks.
I understand.
To be able to complete that
Well,
curriculum.
there's
And
a-
we
there's
would,
a-
we were trying to do it for
You
this
first.
past year, but we could not get over that hurdle.
Well,
So-
there's a place close by that they might be able to get in some OJT.
Yeah, we're hoping so. We're also meeting with the University of West Florida on Monday and Troy University on Tuesday to build that partnership with them to try to have alternatives for our students to go to, not just Okaloosa Technical College, but also other universities and colleges in our area that, that would help them get into those programs by using some of the certification hours or the certification they've taken to count towards hours towards their degree. Okaloosa Technical College is allowing our students to have 300 hours, clock hours, for the basic healthcare course. That's a lot of hours. That's a lot of money that they're saving. So University of West Florida and Troy, they are on board with this. They're excited to hear all of the information that I will share with them next week. And so we'll know a little bit more about that later on. So it's exciting. I've reached out to other Florida State as well as Pensacola State College, Northwest Florida State College. So we're still trying to work those types of angles, but if we could get a university on board with us, it'd be pretty exciting. The hospital they're like chomping at the bit for us to get started. They are so excited about this, and we just think it's going to be a benefit for our students and our community.
What's your enrollment right now?
Yeah, I was
We
gonna
have
say starting
39,
numbers, yeah.
39.
Okay,
39
that's a good
students.
start.
Number.
It is
And
a very
that
good
is, and you mentioned 3 schools, so how many per Are you allowing like so many from each school, or is it
No,
just?
it's just open, first
Open?
come, first serve for this first year.
Okay.
And so we only have room for 48. So we really feel like we're going to get some more,
Yeah.
especially once the word gets out,
yeah.
even more, once the kids start seeing what's happening in that program. Our instructor is Tammy Williams, and she's phenomenal. She has a lot of 22 years of healthcare experience. She has done some work at Okaloosa Technical College, so she is familiar with the educational piece, and she is so excited about getting started and getting our students. One of the things we're going to have her do is also to be working with local medical facilities to try to get additional internships. We want to give them, we have the opportunity for the hospital, but we also want to give them some other types of internships. So they'll have more than just the hospital setting to go by. They can also see what a, family practice may look like, or some other types of facilities.
And transportation's not provided?
It is not provided. It's going to be required for them to have their own transportation.
Maybe as it grows, we might be able to.
Potentially, I mean,
find a
it
bus
could definitely
or
be
something
something
to
we
help
could.
those that don't have their own.
It could
as-
be a
in time.
possibility.
Yeah, something to look forward to.
The challenge that we've had even with our manufacturing academy is just the bus, trying to
True.
find a driver. So that's why we did not offer the
Right.
transportation, because we knew that transportation was already taxed
Mhm.
with trying to get all their routes covered as it is.
And-
Now,
and-
surely you'll get your CDL, Miss Branscombe.
I don't know if y'all want me driving a bus. I have a hard time backing up a car.
So obviously, these students are juniors and seniors.
Yes, ma'am.
Because they have to be at that level anyway to
But
do
the
that.
plan is that the 23-24 school year, we're going to open it up to sophomores. And that way, when they become juniors and they finish the program, as a senior, like half the building is going to be secondary, and the other half of the building is going to be post-secondary. And we have the dual enrollment piece where if they want to go to Okaloosa Technical College, they can take their classes right there as a senior. And all their, their coursework would be covered as they attend school as a high school student in the program.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Just exciting stuff.
As exciting as it is to sit here and listen, when I was able to go visit
Yeah.
and walk the facility
Mhm,
and
mhm.
talk to the individuals at the hospital, I mean, it's even, you can just feel the electricity and the excitement from their side also.
Right.
That
Well, I know
they're
Mr. McCloskey.
looking forward to this.
He's one of the leadership
Mhm.
at the hospital, and he can't wait for us to get
Yes.
started.
Mhm.
So as Mr. Horton said, we're waiting on we have to have the bathrooms converted into, or the showers converted into bathrooms, and we have to put up some walls to sequester our students from the rest of the building.
Yeah.
And so we're working on that. I met with Danny Dean and his team yesterday. I've been working with Dustin Keith, and he's been working on getting the E-rate set up for us, so
Mhm.
internet and things like that. So we've got so many angles to do, because this is not a typical, educational setting, but it's going to be ready to go. We're excited come August 10th to have the students. We're going to do a parent night, student parent night, informational night on the 3rd of August. And so we're getting ready to send that information out to our parents.
Awesome.
Will you send us that also?
Yes,
So we
ma'am,
can-
I sure will. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
August 3rd.
And, I just want to say thank you for all your hard work, but
Oh,
I
yes.
also appreciate, again, and I know I've said this before, and I know my colleagues appreciate it too, is how you keep everybody up to date, what's going on out there. If you don't follow them on Twitter or Facebook, I encourage you to do so, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of great things going on in
Yeah.
our career technical education programs.
Yeah, our students can do everything from cut your hair
Yep.
Yeah.
to build you a house. Now they can fix us up with the
Yeah.
medical.
Eventually, they
Plumbing,
might be able to take blood
electrical,
from you. so.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and this summer, we've had an extremely busy summer because we've had so many things happening. We've had 14 new CTE teachers, and we're still trying to
Wow.
hire one more, and all of them are from industry. So we've been very fortunate to
Oh.
get our teachers from industry.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that. So-
Thank you. You've
Terrific.
done an amazing, you and your team and
Yeah,
all
it's
those
great.
helping.
Well, it
It's
takes a village.
It does take a village.
And I know Mr. Chambers would, Ms. Gardner, I'll brag on Ms. Branscombe for a moment. The artificial intelligence program that we received a hefty Triumph grant for to
Mhm.
start this fall. I think the latest count of enrollment for students in those courses across our mostly 8th grade middle school, where we're beginning that program, is about 300
Yes, sir.
Wow.
students. And so we've got some targets out there with the funding that we received to produce certifications. So they've lined up industry certifications in the area of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And so we look to be right on track for that. So this time next year, I think there'll be two things that'll be happening is April will be asked to go across Northwest Florida, if not the state, to talk about replicating the AI program in our schools, which was a requirement of that Triumph Grant funding, and we'll be happy to do that. I think we're going to start some of that this fall. And the second piece is with this hospital, school district, public-private partnership, that is a unique opportunity, and it directly speaks to providing skilled labor for the workforce. And so we know they have to do other things once they leave our care in terms of going off to Northwest Florida or UWF or Troy State. But it's that pipeline that we're creating that meets the needs of what the Economic Development Council says and what the state says in terms of where we'll be years from now. And certainly we know that both in the areas of AI and in healthcare and nursing, we're going to have a great demand.
Well, and I would like to say, at Choctawhatchee High School, where we're starting the AI program at the high school level, we expected 2 sections of that course. We have 3.
Wow.
So we have a lot of students really interested in it, and that you don't have to have any experience, any coding experience to get into it. So that's pretty cool. If you're out in our schools, the middle schools, and at Choctaw, go by and look at the new AI classrooms, because several of the schools we've done a remodeling with the classroom, we've redone the floors, we've painted, we've bought new furniture, we've bought new technology. It's just been a really busy summer trying to make sure that we have everything in place. We have new teachers teaching in AI. We have a gentleman that's got an avionics background engineering. He's going to be teaching our Python, and he went to there was a Python conference out in Austin just last week, and he stepped up and went. And so we're excited to see him at MEGS next year. Lot of exciting things going on with the AI program, and the teachers are having to learn something new because this is new for a lot of people, but they're sticking to it, and we're excited about the enrollment of those programs, that program, because it's going to be, I think it's really going to grow.
And I love that we're listening to the interest of the students and we're providing what they are requesting.
Yeah,
And just listening to their needs. And
They are, we can't build the programs if they're not interested, and so we have to listen to the industry, and we have to also listen to what the students are looking for.
what the needs
too.
are out there
Yeah.
in our world.
So, is there anything else?
Great job.
All right, thank you, Ms.
I really
Branscombe.
appreciate all
always.
your support. This
Yeah.
has been an exciting year, exciting summer, but we couldn't have done it without Mr. Chambers, Mr. Horton, Ms. Lightbourne, everybody's support, most definitely your support, and we'll continue to do well and do good things for the
As you said,
district.
it takes a village.
It takes a
And
village.
Team
Yes.
Okaloosa works very well
Yeah,
together.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Branscombe. All right, and to finish off Section 8, we got 8.36, and this is the request for course code adoption for the 2022 through 2023 school year.
I want to make a comment on that because
Yep.
the course that I was looking on here, they're doing weighted in music, and it's great to see these weighted courses in electives. When I was a teacher, I was very involved in the journalism program, and I fought for a long time to get advanced journalism credit because I was losing students out of that program, particularly at Choctaw when we had IB, and an IB student could not be on my journalism staff without it being weighted. And Ms. Lightbourne helped me get the same thing done with journalism. So it's great to see electives and other, especially our arts here, getting that, because those students are very dedicated. When they take that program, every year they're there, and the dedication, they get those higher levels there. They're really working hard in that area, and I think it's certainly merited to give that a weighted credit.
And they're serious about their GPA.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
they are.
So
They're
this-
achieving students.
It helps allow them to get into the office.
Otherwise, they technically were getting
Right.
penalized
Right.
by taking those courses if it
Exactly.
didn't get elective, it didn't get higher credit, so that's great.
Ms. Vanchek, appreciate that comment. And so just for those who are looking at this item, Music Ensemble for Honors, that's a state class name.
Yes.
And so it's not something that the school district created, but it is an honors level course as produced at the state level. And so it's in accordance with that level that we wanted to bring it to the board as honors.
Right.
It may be a course that they're selecting to use for the first time, but you're absolutely right. Some upper level journalism courses and those that students have dedicated to, and we know they're rigorous courses when you get to the upper levels, so they
Yeah.
are worthy of that honors level weighting.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Horton. All right, so now we are to Section 9, and this is Superintendent's Human Resource Recommendations. And 9.1 and 9.2 are informational only for today. Employees on administrative leave is 9.1, and 9.2 is Deferred Retirement Option Program drop. 9.3, out-of-field report for the 2022 through 2023 school year. 9.4, addendum to the master contract between the School Board of Okaloosa County and the Okaloosa County Education Association.
I have a,
This is good.
well,
Go ahead. No, I was just saying.
Well, I
it's
have a
good.
question on this one, and I see that it's presented by Dr. Hill, but Ms. Lightburn, this might be you. I was looking at the evaluation handbook, and it's referring to, and I see Mr. Butler here also, the performance measures, the assessments, and I'm all about the performance-based, the FAST, math and reading, is FAST, F-A-S-T, is that a,
That's the new assessment. That's the
Okay.
new step. So FAFSA, FSA.
Okay.
Is now FAST.
okay, so I see that for the math and reading. For the kindergarten, will they still be required to do the flickers?
So it's not flickers anymore.
They ch-
It's-
of course
it's
not.
STAR early
You have to update
literacy.
your book.
Okay,
don't you?
and so they will do that at the very beginning?
But it's under the umbrella of FAST.
Okay, so it's gonna be encompassed all in one?
Let's
I'm
like more,
sorry.
come on up.
Come on now.
It was late when I read this, and I didn't
It's
get a
okay.
chance to call you last night about 10 o'clock, I guess.
So pre-K and kindergarten will do STAR early literacy.
Okay,
And then 1 and 2 will be doing STAR. But those are all under the umbrella of FAST. So although those are the companies that are providing those assessments, Renaissance, they're still the FAST assessment. That's who's providing it for those grade levels. And then 3 through 10 is Cambium, but it's FAST, because that's what the Florida
okay.
assessment is.
So our little ones are not doing actually 2 separate tests for this
They're-
performance here for the teachers. It's just gonna be one test that they'll do a couple of times a year for their
Correct.
evaluation.
I don't want to
percentage.
speak to the teacher
Right.
evaluation, that's the TEC, but I would say those are the assessments that they'll be doing 3 times, they'll do them 3 times a year instead of once.
Okay, is that all ready to, I know several weeks ago that some of these assessments were not ready, and there was some question as far as exactly when that was going to be ready for our teachers, for the training and so forth. And I guess my concern is, being that this is going to be part of their evaluation system, will there be enough time between the different tests?
So
Well-
there is a calendar, I'm not sure what you're at, so there's a calendar that the state has provided us, that the first assessment will start August 15th and go through, I think, September, maybe 15th, something to that effect. And then there's a December through January, and then there's a May
Okay,
timeframe.
so the state is providing these assessments just
Dates.
as they would,
They're in
same-
the same time frame as the 3 through 10.
okay,
So they'll start in August.
okay, perfect.
That,
I
and,
was just-
and actually Beth Barnes right now is at the VPK through 2 training. So,
And my concern was that if they were not gonna start till like late September, October, then we have semester, December, and then toward the end, and if we're looking at evaluations with our teachers, is there gonna be enough time period to teach in between? But it sounds like things are already set up and will be ready for our teachers. when
Yes,
things-
yes.
And I know the union has looked at this and they're happy with how this is rolling out, and, okay.
We do have members on the TEC that work with the district to be able to do this, and then this goes towards our application. to the
Okay.
changes.
Okay, all right. I think I got it.
Okay.
I just want to congratulate the negotiations, everybody in that. I think this is a very good package. Looking at the minimum salary for our teachers is good, and I know this takes a lot of work and trying to get this all done. So thank you for all the time that you've put in it, and I think this is a very good. I mean, when I came on the board, the starting salary for teachers and what it is now, it's come a long way. And it needed to, so thank you. Okay.
Come on up, Ms. Applebird.
I agree with you that it's, it's a great thing that everything's coming up, but I still I don't want it to go without notice that we still have a lot of work to do
Sure.
when it comes to our veteran teachers and the people at the top of the pay scale. The governor raising the minimum wage and everything like that or the pay scale for incoming teachers and things like that. There was a lot of rules that came along
Right.
with that money that we had to follow, and it was, a bunch of different percentages, and I have them all written down, but there was a bunch of different things. And so it does kind of feel like that some of our veteran teachers were kind of left out, is how they kind of feel. I'll say, going into year 10, I'm making the same amount as a first year teacher, which, those are the types of things that we've had to do. But I do say that this is a great thing that we are raising up our salaries beginning, our way we start, but we still have a long way to go in how to fix for our veterans. And I know that the district has been looking at that as well, and so have we. But I just didn't want that to go without notice for our veteran teachers, because their voices need to be heard too for that piece of it. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And their time and all the experience they have, it needs to be
Because who
recognized.
else are we going to learn from except from our veteran teachers?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, we know that the funding came for this starting, but we didn't get the funding to add.
As we all know, the state likes to say that we're going to raise things, but then not necessarily give the funds to do that. And then we have to try to figure out ways to make it work and make sure that we're in compliance, which is nothing new that any of us don't know about.
That's
but
been around, said Dr. White, how many years that
Oh, yeah.
things have been required, but there's,
Oh, yeah. And
Yes.
we were asked
funding
a
doesn't follow
question
it.
last night about how often we speak to our legislators, and I think this will be something that I'll be talking to them about, that the funding for our veteran teachers needs to be there too, because it's exactly what you said, and I know that none of us are happy about it. Right.
And
Because what
it's-
it essentially is doing, unintentionally, I'm sure, but what it is doing is it kind of pins new teacher versus veteran teacher.
Yes.
Because it's trying to say, yes, we want new teachers to come into their profession. There is a teacher shortage, but who says that a veteran teacher isn't, just as
They're
good?
just as
They're-
important,
Well,
if not more.
Exactly, if not
Exactly.
more.
If
We don't wanna-
Exactly.
We don't want to lose our
experiences.
veteran
No.
teachers and replace them with beginning teachers. Right.
Exactly.
Well, it's particularly hard on a teacher, for example, in your experience level, as you're approaching maybe mid-career, so to speak, because if you have 20 plus years, you're probably not going to jump out because of this. You're too close to retirement, and of course, if you're at the beginning, but someone like you, that middle group is really taking the hit because you're seeing no advancement, and when you don't see that, it's hurting you long term towards retirement too.
Yes.
And so I just regret that, and I know that Ms. Perry and everybody, we've worked hard has worked with you to try and eke out every penny we can, and it's going to be the same with support. We're not going to probably be able to give them everything that we would love to, and it's a shame. So I agree with Dr. White that this needs to be looked at the state level, which is
And
something we
that's
can
what
do.
we've been trying to do as well as the union side of it with FEA and ourselves. I know that I've gone, and I know that Patrick has gone and spoken to the legislator. We've all, we go and visit them. I didn't do it as often as I could have probably this go around because I had other things that I had to take care of. But I did send emails. They heard from me, just not in person. So it is. And I mean, we are raising, so it is nice,
Yeah.
because I am seeing the salary increase, but I'm seeing a salary increase that's the same amount as a first year teacher.
Right.
And we're having to keep, compressing our salary scale, and that's frustrating.
Yep.
It's extremely frustrating to know that I'm most likely always going to stay, if it continues the way it is, the same as a first year teacher.
Will be interesting to see because I believe now, well, we're above, but the state is approaching where the governor has requested us to get to. I think his
47.5.
numbers was 47. We're looking at above this if we approve it. And so maybe now that we've hit that threshold, because it took us a couple
It
of
did.
years, that maybe the funding will help go towards that
And
group.
there'll still be rules that go along with it, but it is going to be loosened up a little bit unless the legislator decides to change it on us again, which is always possible at every
Right.
every go around. But because there are more and more districts that are getting to where that they're getting above that 47.5 or they're getting really close to it. So then the question is, where is it going to go from there?
Right.
Which is why I think we tried our best to go not just right at the 47.5. We tried to go above the
Yeah.
47.5 to
Yeah.
hopefully, in hopes to be able to help the veterans next year, and hopefully, even if they do raise it, they won't raise it further than what we are at right now.
And I heard you speak about the FEA.
Yes.
And their work, and Mr. Bryant, you're on the.
FSBA.
Florida- Yeah, Florida School Board Association, and I would suspect that this is an agenda item.
This is, for the last 3 years,
Yes.
this has been one of our top priorities, so.
You
as-
don't see quite often where FEA, the teacher union, the school board union, and the superintendents all come together on the same exact topic, and we
Uh-huh.
are all on the same page about that topic.
We have some commonality.
We do. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's a pretty great thing to kind of come together with.
Well, our teachers, our veterans are able to go out into the communities now because these businesses are matching or even
Yes.
paying more. Thank goodness we have these insurance packages that Mr. Frey said that's been working so hard on. But, you know, it's, we know how difficult teaching is.
But
and
still, bottom line,
it's
it's what's in
bottom
that
line
paycheck.
is, yes.
Yep.
You know, you can
You
have
have-
all
you
kinds
have
of
to
benefits,
live.
but it's the paycheck. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't pay your mortgage with
You have
the
to have a
dental
house, and
benefits.
you have to be able to feed your family.
Right.
Mhm,
So,
exactly.
I hope that the employees understands that this board is aware and we are concerned and we are gonna, you
Supporting
know.
our veterans.
Absolutely. And,
Teachers.
but it is good to see that we are making some progress.
We are. Yes.
And so, thank you.
Well, thank you.
And couldn't help but notice on here, we had Mr. Chapman up here earlier, when we were talking about equity.
Yeah.
And we're going to be adding a middle school flag football coaching supplement this year, so.
Yeah, that's good.
That will help the students in the middle school get excited about flag football as they move into high school, so. Good to see that, and a lot of all the other good things that we're doing here. All right, so 9.5, we'll have employment separations. 9.6, personnel recommendations. 9.7, employee transfers. 9.8, employee suspension. 9.9, reinstatement reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty, illness, injury, medical examination. And finally, 9.10 is leave without pay. Section 10 is discussion agenda. And 10.1, there has been no items requested at this time, but that can happen all the way up until 6 o'clock Monday night. So, 11 o'clock.
Time to go.
Section 11 is construction programs owners representatives business, and the Honorable Dr. Diane Kelly. I'll turn it over to you, ma'am.
Well, thank you, Chair. As you know, we had our July report, and so in just a few days, we will roll over into August, and we will have that report, and I'll be able to give that to you right away.
All right, thank you. So we do have 3 items we'll be voting on Monday night. So 11.2 is authorization for professional services agreement from Faithful and Gold for price validation for program number 6, task order number 2, scope modification number 5. And that's for Florosa Elementary School and Riverside Elementary School for asphalt playground replacement. 11.3, authorization for professional services agreement from Faithful and Gold for price validation for program number 6, task order number 15, scope modification number 1, and this is Davidson Middle School grading and drainage repair project. And Dr. Smith, I was at Davidson the other day, and you know, really that rain came down, but you know, I know that's going to be, we're going to get that all solved over there. So thank you very much for all that, Mr. Meyer. I see you're there too, so thank you. Let's see, 11.4 is TPM program number 6, task order number 15, scope modification number 1, Davidson Middle School grading and drainage repair project. Section 12, information technology seat management contract. We have no items on the agenda. 13 is attorney's business. Mr. McGinnis.
No report this morning.
All right, thank you, sir. 14 is superintendent's business. 14.1, out-of-state student trip request. And 14.2, Mr. Steve Horton, our deputy superintendent. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant, and I know Superintendent wanted to very much be here today, but He's got a daughter who's got a college orientation this morning, and so he's there, as he should be,
As he should
helping
be.
get that squared away. But we'll certainly be here on Monday night to provide any updates and information. A couple things I just want to say on his behalf. We know last week we hosted our administrative refuel summit, where we brought in all of our principals, assistant principals, and deans, and kind of went through a ramp up and refuel for the school year that's coming ahead, and the folks out in the schools are doing a fantastic job. There's hiring being done, there's cleaning being done, there's planning being done, and so that was a day for all of us to come together and focus, and appreciate the board members that were able to stop by and see that event. And so that was the first thing. The second is just giving an update on focus. That's kind of in everybody's line of sight here as we move to the beginning of the year. We did a call out earlier this week to invite parents to take the first step toward becoming a part of the Focus community, and that is setting up their parent account. And that required an email address and a password that they created, and made sure in the call out to state that Focus is the ability for the parent to connect with their students' grades and schedule and attendance and communicate with teachers all in one convenient place. We are moving to that this year, and away from our previous database that had been 40 or 50 years old. So we're excited about it and know that there'll be some growing pains and adjustments to it, but we've got some support in place to help parents do that. I just checked this morning, we have 3,000 parents who created their parent account and actually linked securely to their students. So I likened it to going and setting up a checking account but not having any money in the account yet. So you got to get that taken care of. And they were able to securely connect their students through their student numbers. And so that's happening, and we'll continue to coach families along to do that. At a certain point, once we begin the year, and we talk to parents about on day 1, August 10th, when they go to their parent account, they can, if they've set it up, they can see their students that they've connected with, but there won't be any specific information the first day of school. We're going to wait until the following, so school begins on the 10th of August, which is a Wednesday. The following week, we'll be populating schedules and grades and things that have been put in place, because we need to have that few days to make sure everything's synced up and working properly. At that point, they'll be able to start seeing information on students. And as we all learn the Focus system and the capabilities that it has, they'll be able to see more and more. So to be able to log in and check that out. Now, somebody asked me the question, what about the school grades app that we currently have been using? Or the parent portal that's connected to our website that parents were able to log in with the student number and check on grades. So those are transitioning out. So the app that's on our parents' phones where they check their school grades no longer will be supported. We will be rolling out a new Focus community app, which will be very robust in what it can do. The good news is, once the parent's already gone online and set up their parent account, and they've connected their students to their account securely, then when we give them another call out after the first of the year, it won't be ready until after we begin the school year, we'll do another call out and get our schools to message with our families to say, now go to the App Store and download the OCSD Focus Community app. And when parents do that in the Apple Store or the Android Store, they'll go into that and log in one time into their parent account, and everything will be there. They won't have to go through the process of reconnecting their students or anything.
And when will this be again?
The app development will be probably about the 3rd week of August. So we start
Okay.
school on August 10th.
Right.
It'll take a couple of weeks to make sure it's all set and running well.
Okay.
And we'll make sure to do a call out and do some social media to let parents know to do that. So that's exciting.
Mhm.
And we know that we've got a lot going on right now with gradebook managers, and they've been doing some trainings already before the start of the year where we're able to pay teachers to come up to the schools and do some training on Focus on the front end. Not every teacher. Some teachers may be enjoying their time off, and we'll attend to that when they come back, which is fine. But we've given them the option to do that. And then, as you know, on August 8th, the professional development workday for all of our employees and teachers, we've got our gradebook managers in all of our schools doing Focus training, because we know that's a very important thing to make sure we hit the ground running on that particular program. So a lot of great work being done by the folks in IT and MIS, Ms. Meserve and Ms. Ross, Mr. Mitchell. Those folks are really streamlining and helping get us to where we need to be. And Ms. Perry, obviously, on the finance and HR side, because it's a rollout on the student side as the school year begins, but not until I think October for the finance and human resource side, because it's just a lot to do, but we're excited about it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Horton, and we look forward to Mr. Chambers' comments on Monday night.
Can I ask Mr. Horton on
Sure.
a different topic? Okay. Of course, our district grade came out, and our school grades came out, and are you, do you have any information that you can share with the public on the status of schools that received an incomplete?
Yes, ma'am. Haven't checked my email today, but we did upload, as required by the state, to their share file, a letter from the superintendent requesting that those 3 high schools be issued a grade. We did an analysis that provided, in our estimation, documentation that the performance of the school, let me back up. Those schools received an incomplete grade because there's a state requirement in school grading that 95% of eligible students be tested overall. And that's across ELA, algebra, geometry, U.S. history, and biology. And at these schools, the percentage tested came in at anywhere from 92.5 to 94%. So just shy. The comments from Chancellor Oliva when the school grades were issued were that there were a larger than usual number of incomplete grades issued across the state. We all surmise that the after effects of COVID had some impact on that. I think we had some disconnection on the part of some students about whether or not to take those tests and not getting them completed. Believe me, if they were there at the school, then we were testing them. So just miss that percent complete tested, which was the issue for the incomplete grades. First time that I can remember in the history of the school grades that any of those schools did not hit the 95%. So we've worked with those principals and the testing staff at the school on a plan to make sure that they hit the 95% next year. But I say all that to say, we believe that the performance of the 94% tested or the 93% tested accurately reflects the overall performance of the school had they made the 95% testing. And so Mr. Peterson's done some analysis. We've notified the state of that. And so I expect, initially it was told that we weren't going to receive any response until after the window closed for appeals, which I believe is August 8th. But I'm hopeful that we might get something back sooner because I think I'm seeing that maybe that's getting turned around faster than that. So as soon as we get some results for those schools, we'll put those out, obviously make sure the schools are aware of that and the board and put it out on the website.
And Chairman Bryant, since we're on that topic,
Yes, sir.
And we're moving to board members' business, I wondered if you might allow me to go first, and perhaps I might follow up on the question that Board Member Vanchek asked.
Well, if you're okay, I'll let you go ahead and answer the
All right.
question now.
All right, well, thank you,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So, of course, as Ms. Vanchek said, we did recently receive our district and school grades, and we're happy that, again, the Okaloosa School District was awarded an A grade. But in our school grades, like always, there is some room for improvement in some areas, and of course that's been in the newspaper and the media. And regarding that improvement, I'm wondering, Mr. Horton, if you or someone on your staff might speak just for a minute about what we might be doing to try to help those schools that are looking to improve.
Absolutely.
All
Dr.
right.
White, Ms. Lightborn, our curriculum
Okay.
assistant superintendent, can
All right.
come up and speak to that.
All right. Well, I know you weren't expecting this, so
It's okay.
until a
She's
few
almost
minutes
ready.
ago.
It's
so-
okay, that's what I live.
Yeah, she knows
Moment
it.
by moment.
She knows it. She's living it, yes.
So we have dug deep into those scores and looked at areas of improvement. A lot of the C schools especially are disappointed, of course, because that's not who they believe they are, and they're not. So we are meeting, Mr. Palmer, Ms. Lamb, and I are meeting one-on-one with principals currently. We're working on their SPPs together. That'll be next month where we meet with their SPP teams, but we've been meeting with them all summer.
So an SPP, what is that?
That's a school improvement plan or their school performance plan.
Right.
So that really details what will happen in each content area, as well as what instruction will look like in remediation areas, et cetera, by school. So those plans are in the process of being completed, and then we'll review next month, and then they'll come to the
So you're using
board.
the data that
Absolutely.
you got, that you mentioned that you guys are digging through, and so you're using that data specific to students and subgroups to
Absolutely.
create those, I used to call them school improvement plans, but I guess we call them something different now.
Well, the state calls theirs a school improvement plan.
Okay.
So there's a SIP and there's a
All right.
SPP.
Okay.
So we actually have two plans that some of our schools are actually in the process of doing as well.
All right, all right.
We have written 2 grants that have come from the state. They're part of ESSER, but specific to K2 learning, and one is K3 learning. So we have 2 halftime literacy coaches that is their sole focus.
Okay.
They will train our teachers in a remediation program that is actually attached to our textbook. It's benchmark remediation, and they will train teachers and actually individuals, substitutes, whoever we can get to come in. So we'll allow schools to provide remediation during the day as well as after school.
So
Typic-
is that the same thing as flexible scheduling for students that may need assistance, or
So
might
it will,
that be used?
depending on how the school does it, it'll either be push in to the classroom and that person
Okay.
will provide a small group, or it may
All
be
right.
pull out.
Okay.
Where that person works with
Got it.
small number of
Very good.
students on their specific needs.
Is that something new, or these grant positions that you mentioned?
The money to be able to do it during the day and
Right.
to also provide POC sooner. So typically, a lot of our schools don't, okay, POC is Plan of Care,
You
which
knew
is
it was
our
coming.
after-school tutoring program. But this has now allowed us to bring that during the day
Very good.
as well as after school. So in our secondary schools, we have teachers that are doing a 6 subject, or maybe just doing 3 days a week where they're doing pull-out out of PE
Well, I don't
to
want to
work with
interrupt,
kids.
but you mentioned POC,
Mhm.
and we were able to attend a portion of the superintendent's administrative meeting, and I heard him speak about Plan of Care and what you said about that we're using it. And I guess every school gets a Plan of Care budget to help the students that are in need of help, is that right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you guys are taking a look at that on a regular basis to see
Mhm.
when it's being used and how it's being used?
Well, and this year, we'll allow them to start using it 2 weeks into school, which typically they don't start until
Right.
January timeframe.
Yeah,
So we
well-
will start that
Well,
after-school
good, because they'll
tutoring
have an early
earlier.
assessment, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
Progress
and.
monitoring they
Right, the
start
progress
looking at.
monitoring, so we're looking at that growth
Very
over
good.
time.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
But there are very specific, detailed plans going out by school. But yes, every school gets a pot of money, but then if they need additional money once they've spent that, then we also have some in reserve that they
Good.
can ask, and they can share what additionally they're doing, and then we can provide that to the school.
And so what I hear from that then is that these SPPs, or school improvement plans, are flexible, and that they can be adapted as needs might arise during the year.
So absolutely. So schools started writing those plans in April,
Okay.
just based on student need at that time. Then when scores came in, their meeting, I know Prior is meeting today, actually. I
Okay,
just
wow.
talked to the principal
Okay.
yesterday, so I know they're meeting today
All right.
to kind of look at their new data. I think
Right.
they've been looking at it,
Sure.
but kind of polish it and complete it. We'll bring it to the board once they're complete, probably in September, but they'll have one more look because now they'll have an assessment in August. So we've said you can actually make an adjustment once we have that first
Data.
progress monitoring
Right.
assessment in as
Very
well.
good, very good.
So it is a fluid document. We go ahead and approve the initial document,
Mhm.
but we always say it's fluid. At mid-year, after those mid-year assessments come in and we look at growth, then they are supposed to make adjustments
Right.
at that time.
Exactly, okay, okay. And I'll just say that in my case, and I'm sure my colleagues are the same, that when we have available capital money, if there's anything that I can do as an individual to facilitate a school's need with hardware, computer, software, those kinds of things, I'm more than willing to provide those resources to those schools and and colleagues, I know you're the same, because this is important, and it's not just the school grades that get impacted, the life of a child.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we saw it in that.
Because there is a consequence.
There is,
And that consequence might be retention.
Absolutely.
All right.
Still third grade and then
That's right.
high school graduation, yes.
It's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And may I ask a question? Okay.
Sure.
And I know, speaking with you before we even got the grades, Ms. Lightbourne, you told me that through some different indicators, some concerns were already noted, and that you were being preemptive on working, like, for example, in the summer program, because you knew that some things were going to come through, and coming off the challenges we had finishing up with the COVID. So can you speak to that? I know we've had an extended year for the younger ones, and then, of course, recovery for older ones.
Yes, so we did do, and we opened up our summer school to not only potentially retain students, but any student of need. So typically, we only do summer school for students who are being retained. So it was actually opened up to a larger group of students to support them through the summer. That has gone very well. We had many of our students who were going to be retained were able to be promoted through summer school. Our secondary schools, Mr. Horton, you might help me. I know it was over 2,000. I think it was maybe 2,732 is what I remember. I'm not sure if I'm exact, but courses that were recovered this summer by our
big.
secondary students. So that's big, because their progression to graduation is definitely,
Okay.
that is needed. So we were excited about that. So we believe that our summer school efforts were very much in line with what we needed. We also noted, when we look at our data, our schools of poverty definitely took the greatest hit. And we know nationwide that that is a trend. Our students of poverty took the hardest hit during COVID. And so we are.
Well, can we just examine that for a minute?
Absolutely.
So what we know, I think we know from research, from mountains of research over the years, that loss of instructional time for those students because of absences, whether it be their absences or their teachers' absences, because of COVID and because of quarantine requirements, really caused, I think, you would be the expert here, perhaps some learning loss that might not have occurred in a regular kind of year.
Absolutely. We definitely saw learning loss over COVID. That is a real thing. And it happened for all students. I
Sure.
think our students of poverty took the hardest
That's right.
hit. Maybe didn't have the supports.
Right.
Folks working and those types of things. So it was a little bit more difficult for them to be on the computers and doing what they needed to do. So we definitely saw that, and that is a need. Our lowest quartile in most of our elementary schools, so our
Okay.
students who are performing at the lowest 25th percent, definitely are a big target across the district in elementary, because those are the students who really didn't make the learning gains that we wanted to see. They made gains. Here's the thing, you have to understand that they might have been level 1s or level 2s, and they made gains. They
Right.
just didn't get to proficiency. So
They
we
didn't get to
know.
the break point.
Correct.
Right.
So we know that we just have to continue to grow them. Our administrators hear me over and over again say our last year's third grade didn't have a normal first or second grade,
Right.
and that is a big, and really not even a normal third grade. So that is a group that we will really have to focus on moving forward, because they're going to continue to need our supports, because
saw
they
that.
miss those foundational
We
skills.
saw that in our test scores.
Yes.
We're talking the students that have been taking these tests are early learners, kindergarten, first, second. We really are focusing on those students also. Because
Yes.
you know, I'm a firm believer, if they're not leaving second, going into third as readers, then they're already behind. So we are, I know we are. I'm just
Yes,
saying yes.
that's what I shared earlier, is that we have 2 grants that are specific to just those grade
Those
levels.
grade levels right there.
And so we are targeting those grade levels with that specific interventions and coaches, et cetera.
Because I know we're all on the same page on that, right? there, so,
Absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why we believe those third graders, this past year's third graders,
Yes.
suffered because they didn't
They
get
didn't
those
have that.
foundational skills
Sure.
in first and second grade.
And could you speak to proficiency? You know, people who hear the one, you mentioned one, level 2. 3 is the proficient or the cutoff statewide. And I know what the term means, of course, but in this testing, when you're the public's looking at that, certainly we want our students to be more than proficient, but in looking at school grades and all, what does that actually equate to?
I'm happy to say that the state is actually changing the terminology for a level 3 from proficient to grade level.
Okay,
So
that makes more sense.
I think that helps people understand that if they make a level 3, they're on grade level.
Good.
And that's where we want them to be. If they exceed that, that's wonderful. And we have many students in our district that exceed it. But level 3 is grade level. It's not just okay. It is grade level,
Okay,
which is
good. I'm
where they
glad to
should
hear
be.
that.
That is good.
Because I think that's been a confusing factor to many in the public. I've had some indication of proficiency. Do we want to just be proficient? So it doesn't mean that we're just barely made it. It means they are where they're expected to be.
For that grade level.
On that grade level, yeah, so that,
Yeah.
and that's.
And it's nice that the state has changed it with this new assessment. They will say a level 3 is grade level.
Which makes sense with progress
Mm-hmm.
monitoring to say, you're where you're supposed to be, you're on grade level, you're there,
Exactly.
so, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming up and taking the,
You're welcome.
yeah, off-the-cuff things, yeah.
Anything
Thank
else?
you for allowing me to
Yes,
do
sir.
mine then, Mr. Bryant.
Yes,
So,
sir.
very
All
good.
right.
Thank you.
Mr. Horton, anything else?
Not on my part, sir.
All right, so now we will move down to board members' announcements and requests for information. And I will start with Dr. Kelly today.
Okay, well, I do have just a few things. First of all, you may have seen, I just want to give a shout out to some students, former students of mine and former students from our area who have excelled. Congratulations to Matthew Boswell, a former Destin Middle School student, and Marty, you might have had him as well. During my time there, he went to Destin Middle and he just scored a free agent deal, free ride with the San Diego Padres Baseball Club. So congratulations to Matthew Boswell and his family. Also, congratulations to Niceville High School class of 2018, Chance Huff, who is drafted as a pitcher for Georgia Tech. So we're very proud of those two young men. And a reminder that the back-to-school sales tax holiday begins July 25th and extends through August the 7th. And along with that, the Eglin Federal Credit Union is partnered with Okaloosa Saves for the annual Teach a Child to Save campaign. And there were 108 students we had who participated in deposits that totaled to over $18,000. And out of those students, they put names in a hat and drew out 6 of them who would receive $50 additionally to put into their own accounts. And our students who won those $50 deposit accounts were Genesis Albright of Fort Walton Beach, Dorothy Keller of Fort Walton Beach, Mason Mueller of Fort Walton, Nathan Smith of Crestview, Ruby Smith of Mary Esther, and Selena Sellers of Destin. And I know that you wouldn't be proud of me unless I said we have 20 days left until the students return, and I'll just throw in 33 left until election. Not that I'm counting. That's all I have right now.
All right. Dr. White, any other?
No, sir, I appreciate you letting me go.
Yes, sir.
a few minutes. Although I would say this, that with the more frequent assessment, I suspect that we'll be seeing Ms. Lightborn more frequently
Yeah.
speaking about the same topic.
Yep.
Yes, sir, but that's all.
All right, thank you, Dr. White. Ms. Garner?
Thank you. Got a couple of pages here, and which is so nice that, and it kind of piggybacks on what Diane was saying, that the United Way, the Cram the Van is coming up on July the 30th at Walmart. What did I see? Crestview, Niceville, Fort Walton Beach. They will be out there so that individuals can donate, whether it's school supplies or even money, so that we can provide the supplies back to our schools. Also, last night I was pulling up and I saw that AJ's on the Bayou. On July the 29th, they're going to be having a Cram the Van where they're going to be accepting donations, supplies, and money. They have a list. Also, Peppers in Shalimar, Crestview, Niceville, Fort Walton Beach on July 31st, they're going to be giving away free backpacks for as long as the supply lasts. And I have a list of different organizations throughout the community, and I know we have the United Way. I see Hillary right there on the webpage that we individuals can go to and see where these different drop-offs donations are going to be. But with some of these added organizations that are assisting our students, maybe we can add, maybe I'll give you this list that I've scribbled on, that we can add some of those dates right there. But United Way, our communities, our public are just doing an amazing job going out and providing these supplies for our students, because when you see the face of a child, and it doesn't matter what age, when they walk in with new backpacks and crayons and markers, and there's nothing better than the smell of a new box of crayons, I personally have to say. But for these, our community, they just continue to amaze at how they step up and they provide. And this is not only providing for our students, but it also helps our teachers, because our teachers, we know, go out and they supply these items for our students, for those that are in need. But I'll give you these dates and times, and if individuals would like to go and support. Going back to the United Way, I'm sorry, I skipped over that. If you're not able to make the Walmart drop-offs on the July the 30th, there's donation sites that have opened up from now till July the 30th at different banks in Crestview and Destin, Niceville, banks and restaurants, Okaloosa Gas. So individuals can swing by there and drop off their supplies. But again, thank you to the United Way and all our community support we have to get these children the supplies they need and to help our school. Also, sitting in traffic this couple of days ago at the going toward Brooks Bridge, I noticed off to the right they've already started demolition on some businesses right there, getting ready for the new bridge going in. And as I'm looking at that, I'm looking at, okay, right there within, from here to there is the ballet school. And I'm sure that we are looking at that, and I know that it's like 5 years out, they're saying, but how, and I know we don't own the building.
Right.
But and I know Dr. Smith, I'm sure is already on top of this, but as I sat there and I looked at that, it just kind of brought me some concern to see where this is located in comparison to where, excuse me, the bridge is going.
Well,
So that is something we are,
So I can, if you go to the county's website, they actually have a flyover where they've done a computer enhanced what it's going to look like. And the way it comes off, that area over there is not going to really be affected. It's actually part of the downtown
the downtown
plan.
part of
Right,
it, for
right.
the parking and everything.
Right.
But when you sit there and you look at the proximity of what's been demolished already, and it's just right across the street from but for security and safety, and I know that we're already looking at that.
Yeah, but if you go to the Okaloosa County Board of Commissioners, it's a beautiful computerized, generated what it's going to look like when it's completely done
Fort
now.
Walton Chamber has that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just want us to keep an eye on that. And I guess the last thing, and I know that everybody in the ESC department, Kathy Ard and so forth, are extremely busy, but in time, if we can get an update of where we are with any openings, what we have still available, positions that need to be filled, and I know that you've done a nice job with an overview, but like our speech therapists, our those that are providing those OT services, where are we still needing support with our ESC? I mean, I'm concerned with their IEPs. We know will start on day one, and we want to make certain that these students are being serviced.
And I can give you a general overview. I don't have the information with regard to where they are in the interview process with some of these, but I can tell you that there are still 16 job postings that have to do with the itinerant version connected with student services of all varieties, whether it be occupational, OTP, not OTPs, but
OT,
yes.
occupational therapy, physical therapy.
I've got my list right here so that I can
Speech.
maybe not speak so quickly. Behavior interventionists, speech pathologists, staffing specialists, et cetera. So there's a lot of ongoing work being done in the student services department on those. So I know there's 16 job postings just this morning.
Okay.
But like I said, there's interviewing going on. I don't know where they are in that
Well, and I see all the
process.
many posts you're sending out specifically for whether it's for one of these positions or for bus driver, and your department's doing a very nice job sending out those bright, colorful, attractive, help wanted as
Yes, ma'am, we are
You're working
actively
hard.
recruiting in a lot of different ways, not just for the itinerant positions, but to help the schools out as well. In fact, we went out today with a post to try to help out Silver Sands again. There's
I
some
know they're in
instructional
need.
things there too.
Yes.
So if everybody's paying attention to our social media and all the different varieties of ways that we are reaching out right now, we are leaving no stone unturned, and we
You
are
are not.
certainly, I've got to just, while I'm here, if you don't mind, I would also like to just kind of give a shout out to Karen Peak and her department in professional services. She's done 4 separate webinars talking specifically to career changers in the community, just for people that are interested in becoming teachers and have no experience or have never thought about it before, but we've actually gotten some nibbles from that bite as well. So a lot of innovative recruitment efforts going, not just with the student services efforts, but also at the school level, doing what we can to try to help out schools.
At one time, we did speech online. Is that something that's still being done, or is that
Yes.
being looked at? We are still doing, okay.
We still have a lot of the contracted services that we have
I
in-
thought I saw some.
held in
Uh-huh.
reserve, in the event that we can't fill these positions. There's a
Okay.
lot of things like that that are still ongoing.
Well, and thank you and your department and the curriculum and everything. She's.
Oh, yeah.
increasing st-
And so, one of the things that you've already spoken of in the workshop, and it'll be in front of the board Monday night, that's tied in with the contract ratification, are some of those increased stipends for some of these specialized positions as well. So, as soon as we get approval, we don't like to kind of get ahead of the board with regard to promotion, but as soon as
Exactly.
something happens that would change the incentive program for some of these positions, we'll be recruiting with that in mind as well.
Well, I'm glad Ms. Lightburn reminded, because that's kind of what brought this question forward. When I saw that increase in that stipend, made me, again, want to question, make sure that we have.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And I know everybody's doing everything they can do, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think that's, if I look at all my, I think that's it.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Ms.
Bryant.
Thank you, Ms. Gardner. And finally, Ms. Savanjak.
The only thing I want to piggyback on is that the Stuff the Bus is actually being sponsored too by our Okaloosa Public Schools Foundation, along with United Way. And on that, the schools sign up and come, those teachers come and work, and then they get the supplies to go back to their schools. So it's really helping those individual schools. So a lot of opportunities for
And
that.
they can
So-
call Debbie Tate to
Yes.
get a
Yeah,
time
and
to
sign
work.
up with Debbie Tate, and then that way they can get their own things. A lot of teachers do that. You know, teachers are resourceful. They come out there and work and get their supplies for their school, which is great.
And we still have a couple of slots open, 2-hour
Yes.
slots, but it may not be geographically where the school exists, but I
Right.
say put on a white
Come on,
T-shirt
yeah.
and
Yep.
and
Yep,
go and
that's
go
right.
where the supplies
And
are.
bring a fan and get out there.
Yeah.
And we'll
help.
provide
I-
a canopy covering for folks too.
Yeah,
'cause
Okay.
it's
It can be
always
warm in the afternoon. there.
nice setup. Yeah, but it starts at 8 in the morning, so pick that early time.
It's still
That's
90
all.
degrees
Thank
at that.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, thank you. And I just have just two comments. So first of all, we were talking about the Okaloosa School Foundation and being a mentor for Take Stock in Children. I always love to update my student. And with Mr. Butler being out here, I told him this morning that Caleb Wagner, the student that I mentor, has signed a commitment to play football at
Illinois University Carbondale.
And what is the name of your?
Go Salukis.
Salukis, there you go. So when I saw that the other day, Mr. Butler was the first person I thought of, and I was like, I know he would be proud, and we're proud of Caleb too. And then
Caleb's
on a sad note, one of our Okaloosa family members died unexpectedly over the weekend, and her funeral is today, and she was a very big part of our community, our Okaloosa family at Laurel Hill, Shoal River. She was actually in the district, going to be in the district offices, and that is, we affectionately call her Coach Katie, but that's Katie Hulyon, and her Hulon, I'm sorry, and her service today is at 12:30 for visitation, and then the actual service is at 2 o'clock at Woodlawn Baptist Church, and her interment will be up at Rock Hill, I think is the name of the cemetery in Laurel Hill. And so we just want to pass our condolences to Coach Katie's family. And with that, we'll move down to the 2-minute version of public comment, and I received no blue cards for that. And on Monday night, we have a lot of public hearing going on. So we have 17-1 will be public hearing on the school district's 5-year capital outlay plan. And school board members, stop me at any time if there's any questions or comments that you'd like to make about any of these items. 17.2, required local effort millage rate. 17.3, basic discretionary operating millage rate of 0.748 bills. 17.4, capital outlay millage rate of 1.500 mils. 17.5, total millage levy.
I want to talk about that.
Okay, and I believe Ms. Perry is
Well, I've talked to
prepared.
Ms. Perry because I've had taken a special interest lately to our millage rate and our taxes. And so, because I've had some community input on that. And I just want the public to know, and I hope they're paying attention to this. Do you have something?
I would say, not to interrupt Ms. Ivanchek, but I guess I just did. I apologize. We've actually got some slides here that we could present to you today that would be
do
a
it.
way to get some information in the board docs and available for folks who
That'd be
may
great.
want to view it. Okay?
So this would be
it-
17.5.
And I think it speaks to not only 17.5, but also
all of it, yeah.
the preliminary and tentative budget overall. And
But,
so,
all right, so can I make my point real quick? And then, is that for the 32nd consecutive year, the overall millage rate has come down. So it's amazing that our taxpayers are paying less than they did 5 years ago, 10 as far as school taxes. So I appreciate Ms. Perry giving us a wonderful handout on that, and I don't know if it's in here. But it's
yes,
gonna
ma'am.
show that, so-
You'll find in the preliminary and tentative budget that's been given to the board members, but also put on our website, a 32-year history of millage
Yes,
rates.
yes.
And what we've got here today for you, and Ms. Perry will come up in just a minute.
May I
is-
ask,
Yes,
the question? Is it what you just, your remark? So, Ms. Perry, what are we saying? Are we saying that this year's millage rate is the lowest it's been in 32 years? Is that what we're saying? Okay.
Yes.
The answer is
That's it.
yes. So it's the lowest millage rate in Okaloosa County for 32 years.
So we have not raised taxes. Okay, right?
This is where, when we have our budget ads, they will come out tomorrow in the Northwest Florida Daily News. One of the budget ads we are required to run is that we are proposing a tax increase. The taxes we are expecting to be higher than last year because property values went up, not because we've increased the millage
But
rate.
not an action of this board.
Right.
Thank you.
But even though the millage rate's going down and we have no control over property values, we have to say we're raising taxes.
Okay,
And that's by law.
By law.
By law.
And also on that advertisement, we can't say property values, can we?
No, sir.
Right,
It's
but
very strict as
It
to
is
what we
very
have to
strict.
say.
But that is the reason why, though.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that comes from the state of Florida?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. It's part of the Truth in Millage Act.
What, can you say that again?
The Truth in Millage Act, the
Thank
TRIM
you.
Act.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
have to follow that.
And we'll hear about that.
Yes, but we have no control over that.
Oh, I know. And the reality is our millage rate is the lowest it's been in 32 years, regardless of whatever ad you're required to run by the state of Florida.
Yes.
All right.
And if the public will look at this chart and see that the components that go into this millage, we have, the capital outlay discretionary at the 1.5, that's what we have to do. The discretionary basic we have to do. So required local effort, that's what we're expected. So we have very little control over those rates. And of course, we have no control over property assessment, value assessment, so.
Yeah, we're pulling up the
Sure.
the
Yeah.
chart for
Yeah.
you. Go to that one, July 25th. Oh, that'll work too.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to emphasize.
17. down to 17. Okay, 17.5, try that one. Yep, and then just click that 32-year history. Since that's what she's talking about.
Is he coming back?
I don't know how you
I think so.
show that.
You didn't tell me he wasn't.
So I've requested that we show this, so
Yes, sir.
the public can see it actually right now as we see it.
Yes, and this is on the agenda item. It's also a part of the preliminary and tentative budget book.
Will that be on the website,
Yes.
finance?
Yes, we're going to post the preliminary and tentative book is on the agenda item right now. And then if you approve the budget Monday night, then Tuesday morning we'll post it on the finance
So
website.
that becomes real upon approval, that document.
Mhm,
Got it.
mhm. Yes, and so that just shows you a rundown.
All right.
Now, you can see what in 1991-92, the total millage was 8.094.
And it got higher than that, and when you get
Mhm.
into 98, 99, it went up as high as 8.7.
Mhm.
And now we're down to, 5.5.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Perry.
Okay.
All right, so now,
But we're going to do some other ones, yeah.
so now we're going to move down. We were at 17.5, so 17.6 will now call for a resolution of 22-08 adopting the millage rates for the fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.7, Okaloosa County School District Preliminary and Tentative Budget General Fund for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.8, Okaloosa County School District Preliminary and Tentative Budget Special Revenue Funds, Food Service for fiscal year 2022 through 2023.
Okay, so I asked a question. You have a part prepared, or are you just waiting for us to ask you so you can show something?
We have a PowerPoint.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
then.
if we could take a few minutes to present the information here, because one of the other issues that, or questions that might be raised as you look at the 22-23 preliminary and tentative budget compared to the 21-22
Right.
How
That's
big
what-
it
is what looks to be a large increase
Yes.
in the overall
That's what I
budget
want
for the
covered.
district. So I think
Okay.
Ms. Perry is going to take a few slides, if you will, to kind of lay
Yeah,
out
let's
for
do that.
folks who want to look at it, what that really means, and does the district have a lot more discretionary revenue available or not, based on what looks to be a much larger budget this year. So she
Yeah.
can take us through that
Okay.
Yeah.
as it relates to all of these items.
All right, so
Okay,
if that's
good.
prepared, we'll go ahead and
Yeah, let's
look
go
at
with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to the other ones here.
And of course, we have it in front of us on the TV.
Right.
I guess the public, are they seeing the TV or are they seeing?
Yeah, they
If
can
it's
see
streamed,
what's
they'll
right
see
behind.
that.
And
They see this
probably,
part.
well,
Yes.
Paul
It'll
can
be
probably
posted to
just
Board Docs.
focus it right on that too,
Okay.
so.
All
And
right.
then we'll have this added to the agenda item.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so the first slide is talking about the proposed millage. And as we talked about, there's three parts to the proposed millage. The first one is the required local effort. For 22-23, it'll be 3.331. That includes a prior period adjustment of .001. What happens is if we did not collect the amount of revenue in the previous year that the state expected us to collect, then they add a little bit on called a prior period adjustment. But that's all determined by the state. We have to collect that in order to receive any of the state FEFP money.
That's why it says required.
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha.
The next part is the discretionary operating millage. It's called discretionary because it is levied at the discretion of the school board. It's 0.748. It is something that all districts levy. When the state does the calculations to show how much money we are receiving per student, they include that discretionary operating millage. So it's expected that we will levy that. Then you have the capital outlay and maintenance, the 1.5. That is also discretionary, but as you know, we have many old schools and we need that 1.5 mils, and thankfully we have also the half-cent sales tax to help us with that. So our total millage is 5.579 for the new year compared to 5.943 for last year. So it decreased 0.364 mils.
Can I ask you what happened with starting in 2009 with that discretionary supplemental. What happened with that? It went away, it looks like, so.
Yes, that was just something that, the way that the state changed the way that the millage was to be collected.
The formula and everything, okay,
Yeah,
right.
just
It looks
any
like
of
they just
those
went from-
millages, we've just followed what the state has told us to do. We've never collected extra millage.
Gotcha.
It was interesting, I did a little, when I was double checking to make sure that every district is collecting the .748. I actually found 22 districts that have voter-approved additional discretionary millage.
Oh.
And
So-
that have cent sales tax. Right.
Well, I mean, and that discretionary is for the discretionary operating budget.
Mhm.
And if we wanted to raise the mill, we would have to bring that before the voters, wouldn't we?
Correct.
Yes. So it wouldn't be us just saying, we're
Right.
gonna,
Voters
That's
have
right.
to approve.
Right.
Yeah.
And just a side note, a mill is a tax levy. It is, one mill means $1 for every $1,000 of assessed property value. So 2 mills would be $2 per 1,000. And that, the next statement is what we talked about earlier, that even though our millage is going down because property values have gone up, that means that we're expecting an increase in property taxes. So we have to advertise a notice of proposed tax increase.
Exactly.
Because we're actually getting more money from
Because of property values.
taxes. Not that the rate is, but the
Yes.
overall what we're getting, okay.
But
Yes, ma'am.
everyone knows that it's a good thing that property values have increased,
Mhm.
because should economic conditions change,
Mhm.
that can change the other way, and that's
Exactly.
not a good thing.
Exactly. So, when you compare the total operating budget for 22-23 to the total operating preliminary and tentative budget for 21-22, you can see there's a very large increase, $243 million. So remember that your whole budget is going to be your new revenue, your carryover revenue, and any transfers between funds. Capital outlay, we have the revenue in capital outlay, but then it gets, some of it is transferred to general, which then becomes revenue in general for facilities maintenance and for instructional computers. Then we also have some capital revenue that gets transferred into debt service in order to make our payment on our certificates of participation that we sold in order to fund the sales tax projects. So it sort of doubles up the revenue, but that's the way that the governmental funds have to be
So
reported.
does that, from my layman's perspective, mean that it gets counted twice?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But, yeah, by governmental standards. So to look at where the increase is, that 243 million, the biggest part, almost half of it, or it is half of it, is from the certificates of participation proceeds. It's 121.9 million. The sales tax revenue is 16 million, and we know that's for construction. Our federal funds, the ESSER, CARES, anyway, those are the one-time source that we've been working with. It's 27.1 million increase. Other federal funds, those are things that we have every year, like IDEA, Title I, Title II. We see a 1.3 million.
Well, can we go back to, looks like the third dot, the federal funds?
Mhm.
Now, so those are funds that were associated with COVID relief
Yes, sir.
and so forth, and so those were funds that the federal government basically gifted the school district with, and that's why they're included?
Yes, yes, sir. And they were using those, of course, to help with the
Okay.
learning loss and everything.
Right, exactly. We have a plan,
We have
plans
a-
published,
yes,
right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And food service, it's increased 4.6 million. Debt service, the increase of 17.7 million, and so we can make that payment. We're gonna make sure and pay off our certificates of participation within the 9 years that we have the sales tax revenue. These special revenue miscellaneous internal funds, that is new. According to GASB 84, we are needing to list those as special revenue and include those in our budget. So that shows a $16 million increase in the budget. Even though.
What is GAS D?
GASB,
Right.
Governmental Accounting Standards Board.
All right, so because of that, that's why we're listing that as an increase, okay?
Yes, sir.
Got it.
Then we've got few more capital outlay items, 1.5 and some small ones. So all of those that I've just gone over, they all have specific purposes. You know, they're either one-time funds, or they're for capital, or they're for food service, or the last one, the general fund, the $29.9 million increase, that is our operating fund. That's what we use to run the district, to buy our positions, to pay for all of our operating costs. So we thought it would be good to look a little bit closer at that general fund revenue, the increase. So you have your $29.9 million increase. That's made up of other financing resources, which is the transfer from capital improvement funds, $1.7 million. It's an increase of fund balance of $5.7 million. Now, that fund balance is increased because it is all of the 21-22 available and encumbered carryover funds. But these are funds that have all been assigned to different projects. The only thing that is in a fund balance that's not assigned to something is fund balance undesignated. That part only went up $0.2 million. The rest of this is all in projects and encumbrances. So the new revenue portion is $22.4 million. Okay. Then when you look at the new revenue, you have, part of it is restricted. It's for certain, we have certain things that we have to do with safe schools, workforce, mental health, childcare, instructional materials. We can't use that just for our general operating costs. Those all have specific purposes.
Is that what we used to call categorical funds?
So, yes, sir, there's categorical funds, but there's also things like childcare and VPK that's
Yep.
not from the FEFP categorical,
Right. Okay.
but it's funds
Okay.
that we have to use
All right,
for
so
those
but they are
purposes.
prescribed in
Mhm.
how we must spend them.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the rest of the money is what I would refer to as our flexible operating and our funds we use to meet class size. So that's $16.5 million.
And just to interject here, remember, we're looking at increases here, so trying to compare the budget from last year to the budget from this year.
Yes,
Well,
just the
and-
increase.
And so, when we say those funds are used to meet class size, what does that mean? Are
In
we
other words,
talking-
I included class size reduction,
Right,
even
I
though it's a
understand.
categorical.
Yes, ma'am.
I included it in the flexible
Okay,
operating
but-
funds because we use that only for purchasing teachers.
All right, so that's the point that I wanted to make, that when we have to meet class size, then we have to employ professional services, and that means we hire professional teachers. And is that what that money's being used for?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And if we don't meet class size, we lose funding, money.
You can, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
They recoup funding if you don't meet class size where you don't do it.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're at the $16.5 million increase. We do know that we have some major cost increases for the new year. We have it because the state legislature moved all the family empowerment scholarships into the budget. Between that and our charter schools growing, we're expecting to pay an additional $9.5 million for those programs. The Florida retirement rate increased at a cost for us of $1.8 million.
Who set that?
Pardon?
Who set that?
The
that
the
figure?
retirement rate?
Yeah.
The legislature.
All right.
And we're required to increase minimum wage to $15. That's going to be a minimum cost of $2.9 million. And we've been told by Florida Power and Light to anticipate an increase in electricity of $0.8 million.
That minimum wage is a big piece there.
Mhm.
It's a good thing for our employees, but that's
Yes.
a
That
big
and the
thing.
family empowerment scholarships. So that's a really,
Yeah.
so we'll see a lot of that increases because of them, because of that. So those known increases are $15 million. And so just to give you an idea of to drill down and see what it is that we can, the money that we can use to run the district.
So even though it looks like we have more, when you start pulling that, we really don't.
When you
never
start
did.
with
It just-
we never did.
It's
$243
just
million
kinda like
increase.
your
Well,
own-
that's what I was gonna say. You didn't have the remainder slide. How much was left?
There's a little bit of math
I
there
mean, what was
left
it
to do.
about, yeah, well, you're the math, it was a little over $1 million, is
Yeah,
that right?
$1.5 million.
$1.5 million
That's-
is all that's left
Yeah.
out of that
That's-
quote increase.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Wow.
And again, that's
So-
not to say those other fund amounts are going to be used and used appropriately, whether it be all of the COP revenue that's going to be used to pay for the construction of all those properties. That's all happening. The point of this was to just kind of drill down to flexible spending in the school district. And school districts are not supposed to operate at a profit. They certainly aren't supposed to operate at a loss. We want to put the resources where they're most needed and continue to do that. But Julie's done a great job putting this together and kind of giving information that folks can kind of take in bites and understand. And so looking forward to Mr. Chambers being back Monday night with his comments on this.
So do you have any other questions?
Well, just same thing, I think you said it. Should the budget resolutions pass, will that be placed on the website also, the slide?
The well, we can go ahead and put those slideshow in the agenda. We
Okay.
can put it on the website
Okay.
too. That's
Be good.
a great idea.
Yeah, all right.
Yes.
Thank you. You've made this very easy
Yeah.
to
Yep.
follow.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
For general public and nicely laid out.
Well,
And
thank
I
you.
think with your explanation, I hope the public sees how complex funding schools, it's a lot more complex than people think.
Yeah.
It
And
really
comes
is.
from a lot of different ways and all those areas. It's not an easy balance. And, you know, we do have to have a balanced budget. And thank you for
Yes, ma'am.
making it so easy to understand.
No.
Appreciate it.
And thank you, Mr. Horton, for putting that PowerPoint together
Yeah,
with
awesome.
the,
Good job.
Thank you,
Nice
Mr.
job.
Horton.
yes, thank you.
And Ms. Vancheck, I appreciate you saying that because we talked about this on Monday, that it is required by law that we have a balanced budget. And of course, that's going to happen again this year because of the law. But again, thank you for all your hard work, and your team has done a great job of
Yeah,
helping explain
good
that.
stuff.
So,
Okay.
all right, so now we'll go down to 17.9, and this will be Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget, special revenue funds for other federal programs, Fund 420 for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.10, Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget, special revenue funds, CARES, elementary and secondary school emergency relief, ESSER, Fund 441 for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.11, Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget, special revenue funds, other CARES Act relief, including GEAR Fund 442 for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.12, Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget, special revenue funds, CRRSA, elementary and secondary school emergency relief 2, ESSER 2, Fund 443 for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.13, Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget, special revenue funds, other CRRSA Act relief, including GEAR 2, Fund 444 for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. And you can see how all this money has to go into certain pots. So you got Fund 442, 444, 443.
That's right.
So you got to know where all that's going. So that's Okaloosa 17.4, Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget, special revenue funds, ARP, elementary and secondary school emergency relief 3, ESSER 3, Fund 445 for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.15, Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget, special revenue funds, other ARP Act relief, Fund 446 for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.16, Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget, special revenue funds, miscellaneous internal funds, Fund 490 for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.17, Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget, debt service funds for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.18, Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget, capital project funds for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.19, Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.20, Resolution 22-09, adopting the Okaloosa County School District preliminary and tentative budget for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. 17.21 will be public hearing for adoption of revised School Board Policy 01-21 Wellness Policy. 17.22, public hearing for adoption of revised School Board Policies, Chapter 10, Communicable Disease. 17.23, public hearing for adoption of a new job description for teacher on special assignment, alternative programs, and DJJ.
And we're doing that, but we're not really planning to enact that,
There's no plan to fill it.
but just have the thing for there.
Position in place.
Good.
And then finally, 17.24, public hearing for adoption of a new job description for intervention coordinator.
Yep.
And with that, go around the room real quick. Mr. Strong, Mr. Butler, Ms. Appleberg, staff. All right, this meeting's adjourned.